What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
8LS. Chapter 176. The Summit War kicks off. Seeing the Whitebeard pirates, Sengoku wanted to rush to the port, and told Aokiji. Aokiji stop them, don't let them successfully land at the port. 1. Clear. Aokiji responded and swooped out in an instant, landing on the sea surface in the bay. Aokiji stepped on the sea surface to work and did not sink, but started from under his feet with him as the center, and the sea surface began to freeze. Crack. Click. After a while, all the sea water in the bay was frozen, and the pirates under the Whitebeard pirates in the outer area were also forced to stop on the frozen sea. When the captain saw the frozen sea, they didn't need Whitebeard's order, just like making dumplings, jumped off the boat one by one. Crush the duck. Rush forward and rescue Ace. Ho 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 ho. Ha 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 hiccup. Pirate. The frozen sea is so convenient, I'm so excited that I'm so hot. A group of pirates mounted cannons, and all of them bombarded the marine warship. A group of vice admirals suddenly rushed out of the marine lineup, chopped the cannonballs in half, and exploded in the air. Boom, 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 boom. Pirate. It doesn't look that easy. Another pirate. The vice admirals from the marine headquarters have all appeared. I have never seen so many vice admirals gathered together. A captain stood up and cheered up. What about Vice Admiral? Our father is Whitebeard. If you dare to intercept us, we will be killed. That's right. Rush over there and kill all marines. The Marine Vice Admiral here saw the pirates rushing over, and they all turned their heads to look at the Crane Vice Admiral who was on the side and persuaded, Grandma Crane, please back down. Another Vice Admiral also persuaded, leave it to us to clean up here, you can go to the back and drink tea slowly. Crane Vice Admiral said with disdain on his face, don't be so handsome, you brats, even if I retreat to the end of the sea, there will be no safe place. All the Vice Admirals shook their heads helplessly and didn't care about her anymore. A Marine Vice Admiral said, don't let them approach the port, let's go too. Don't worry. These pirates can only stop here. Up. Ho 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 ho. A group of vice admirals greeted the pirates led by the captains of the Great Eddie Spider, Squid, and the two sides collided quickly. Jingle. Boom. Rumble. The soldiers of naval headquarters in the square still looked shocked, and an officer stood up and said cheeringly, we have Marine Admiral here, don't be afraid of their Whitebeard pirates, let me rush down to stop them. They absolutely must not let them land in port. Crush the duck. Ho 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 ho. The shells are ready to fire. Boom, 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 boom. The captains of the four ships in the mouth of the bay looked at the shells all over the sky but turned a blind eye. A pirate leaned on the railing and said, give us a good foothold, which can't live up to the kindness of Marine. Let's go to bar. Let them see how powerful we are. Foil Beasta jumped off the boat after saying that, and took the lead in rushing to the front. Ho 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 ho. The pirates behind were not to be outdone, and jumped off the boat one after another like dumplings, following Festa's footsteps. Marine soldier. The captains are also attacking, don't stop the shelling. Boom, 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 boom. The war between the naval headquarters and the Whitebeard pirates finally kicked off. The frozen sea became a battlefield for both sides. The captains rushed to the front, and the marine officers were not to be outdone. They led the remaining tens of thousands of soldiers to form a team. The wall blocked the progress of the captains. Jingle. Boom. Rumbling. The captains shuttled through the hail of bullets, rushing towards tens of thousands of marine soldiers with an indomitable momentum. Moran watched Marine and the Whitebeard pirates stalemate on the ice battlefield, fighting inextricably for a while, and teased Whitebeard, Whitebeard, you sons. It doesn't look very good, if my Wanjian pirates come, Marineford will be sunk by now. Whitebeard didn't show his expression on the surface, but when he grabbed Kong Yuncha's hand, veins popped out one by one, and he thought to himself, although I know what this B********* D said is true, why does it sound so embarrassing? Whitebeard comforted himself in his heart for a while, thinking that this guy was here to help him, so I endured, tolerate. I endured a fart. The more he thought about it, the Whitebeard couldn't hold back his anger. He raised Kong Yunchi in his hand, and the knife slashed at the unrestrained guy next to him. Moran heard the sound of breaking through the air beside him, and thought to himself, the joke is too far. Thinking of this, Moran quickly pulled out the knife at his waist, covered Hockey and wiped it from bottom to top, and met Whitebeard's knife. Clang. Boom. Rumbling. The knives of the two collided instantly, and the circles of air waves carried black lightning. Spreading in all directions, a series of spider webs appeared on the deck, and the ice surface under the ship was also shaken by the aftermath to form a series of spider webs, spreading to the distance. Those who heard the movement on the ice, no matter if they were Marines or pirates, all turned their heads to look at the collision place. Marine. Why did the two of them fight? Did they have a falling out? Marine next to him said happily, it's best to let them bite dog, and we will both lose. Then our Marine will be able to make a profit. Marine's senior management was not as optimistic as the soldiers, but with solemn expressions on their faces. They looked at the execution platform, and then at the unknown strongman, Zhou Dahao, who collided with Whitebeard on the Whitebeard ship. At the moment of the collision just now, they all felt a familiar aura, and this aura is very similar to Moran sitting on the execution platform. I hope it is not what they think, otherwise their Marine will be in trouble. The two were deadlocked on the deck. Moran looked at the furious Whitebeard, and said speechlessly, Whitebeard is just joking, as for such a big reaction. Whitebeard still said angrily, you be asterisk 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 D can say I can, but not my sons, or lousy will fight you hard. After Whitebeard finished speaking, he withdrew his power. Moran felt the power on the knife disappear. After putting away the knife, he mocked with disdain. You are old with old arms and legs, I'm still afraid that you will try your best. You be asterisk 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 D. Whitebeard instantly broke the defense and raised Kong Yunchi in his hand, about to touch Moran. Chapter 177. Moran's identity exposed. Margao, who was still on the boat, saw that his father wanted to do something again, so he hurried over to stop him and said, calm down, father, let him say it's all right if he likes to talk, we won't lose a piece of meat. Margao has been listening to the conversation between the two on the boat, and he also knows Moran's identity. If they fight with this guy now, they will definitely fail this time, so he hurried out to be a peacemaker. Aha! Only then did Moran realize that because he collided with Whitebeard, the battlefield on the ice suddenly stopped, and tens of thousands of eyes were staring at them, and he shouted uncomfortably, keep fighting. Not beauties, watch us FK. Kill all these eye-catching Marines. Ho 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 ho. Kill all these evil pirates. Ho 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 ho. The flames of war on the ice were ignited again in an instant, and after a brief pause, Marine and the pirate fought together even more frantically. He murmured in a dark voice. The same momentum and the same way of speaking, absolutely unmistakable, that guy is Alfad Moran, what is going on with this Sha Lan? I've seen them use clones on other members of the 10,000 Swords Pirates, and this be asterisk 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 D might as well. Akainu explained behind Sengoku at some point. Sengoku thought about this possibility, but he still said, let's not act rashly, and if he makes a move later, we will find out whether he is Alfad Moran or not. Moran didn't know that his identity had been exposed. At this time, he put an arm on Margao's shoulder and whispered, Margao is a handsome man like you. It's a pity to follow Whitebeard. How about following me in the future? Whitebeard's face was already black from anger, but now it's as black as the bottom of a pot. Although Moran whispered, but the three of them are so close, how could he not hear him? Marco glanced at Whitebeard and found him the expression on his face was not good, and after pushing Moran away, he immediately stated, you be asterisk 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 D, don't daydream, Dad is so kind to me, how could I go with you? Margao stared at Moran with a black line on his face, secretly worried in his heart, this guy is definitely trying to anger Dad on purpose, the injury on Dad's body does not allow him to be angry. Cut. You guys are too boring, you don't even know how to make jokes. Moran looked like I disdain to play with you, turned around and gave Whitebeard the back of his head, and continued to watch the battle on the battlefield. Whitebeard gritted his teeth in the back, but he couldn't help it. He also knew that Moran was just joking, but this guy really deserves a beating. Pat. Hawkeye jumped off the plaza and landed next to several Shichibukai. The surrounding naval headquarters soldiers all looked at Hawkeye and exclaimed, that's Dracula Mahawk, our 7 warlords of the sea finally going to make a move. Kizaru watched Hawkeye jumping down from the square and was about to make a move, and said unexpectedly, this is really rare. Akainu. Hawkeye, who does what he wants to join the war. Doflamingo glanced at Hawkeye and asked, why, are you going to FK? Hawkeye stared at Whitebeard with his eagle-like eyes and said, just to try, how different is the man in front of us from us? Clang. Hawkeye pulled out the big black knife behind his back, and everyone around him looked at Hawkeye and talked about it, as if they had their own sound effects when they appeared on the stage, it was full of force. Moran was also looking at this feigned offender, and thought inwardly, every time I see this guy, he is feigning, this guy is either feigning, or he is on the way to feigning, and he must be killed later. When you type S, you actually pretend to be better than me, how can you not teach me a lesson? Hawkeye held the knife in one hand and raised it above his head, and slashed down in the direction of Whitebeard and Moran. A huge slash crossed the ice and rushed towards Whitebeard and Moran. A long and deep ditch was drawn directly. That's Hawkeye's slash. Not good. Run away. Boom. Rumbling. The marine pirates standing on the ice all stayed away from the range of the slashing. A slashing of this level may be fatal, so the pirates couldn't care less about fighting, and they all rolled away. Run away with a crawl. Clang. Oh, are you going to shoot? Whitebeard asked in surprise as he watched Moran pull out his knife. Originally, I didn't plan to make a move so quickly, but because you, a bad old man, chopped me up, I guess I've been exposed now, and it's pointless to keep hiding. Moran has also reacted now, he just collided with Whitebeard and exploded the momentum as probably discovered by Marine. Gu la 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 la. Whitebeard, who heard this, laughed and mocked, it's not because of your mouth, you can't blame me for that. Cut. After Moran glanced at Whitebeard with disdain, he jumped off the boat and walked forward step by step, blocking the only way for slash. Diamond Joe's originally wanted to come over to stop the slash, but he didn't care when he saw Moran walking towards the slash. Although he didn't know who Moran was, a guy who can collide with Dad without losing the wind should block this slash more than enough. Point 0. Moran walked forward step by step with the knife in his hand. When Moran raised the knife above his head, everyone on the ice felt a suffocating sense of oppression. Boa Hancock looked at Moran, opened his mouth in surprise and said, this suffocating sense of oppression. Foo 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 foo. Here comes another monster. Moran slashed fiercely at the rushing slash, a huge slash met Hawkeye's slash, and quickly collided together. Boom. Rumbling. After the two slashes were in a stalemate for a while, no one could do anything to them, and they exploded, blasting the ice into a bottomless pit. When everything returned to calm, Sengoku gritted his teeth and roared. It really is UB************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* Moran said nonchalantly, I've been recognized. Sengoku thought secretly. It seems that what Akainu said is right, the guy on the execution platform is just a clone, can't his clone touch it? It's a pity that no one can answer the doubts in Sengoku's heart, they know too little about the Wanjian pirates. Chapter 178. The collision between Moran and the Faced Eagle. Now that he was discovered, he stopped pretending, and Moran directly changed back to his original appearance. He changed into someone else's appearance, thinking that if the negotiation with Whitebeard failed, he could continue to negotiate with Marine. If he was found out, he wouldn't be ashamed to talk to the people in Marine, after all he wants face. If Marine's senior executives heard Moran's heartfelt sentiments, they would probably ask, where does a shameless guy like you have any face? Everyone on the ice stopped, looked at Moran on the execution platform, and then at Moran on the ice, all of them were stunned. A Marine soldier asked in confusion, that's the Dragon Emperor Moran, isn't he on the execution platform? A Marine soldier next to him said with a pale face, now is not the time to worry about this, if that guy is there, do you know what it means? The others didn't understand why, they looked at the speaking Marine soldier, and the speaking soldier explained, this will mean that our Marine will face 5 emperors at the same time. No way. The Marine soldiers turned pale when they heard this. A Whitebeard pirate group is enough for them to drink a pot. If there is a Wanjian pirate group coming, what will their Marines use to resist? At this time, Sengoku called several Marine executives to discuss countermeasures. Moran's sudden attack put him under great pressure. Sengoku looked at Garp and said solemnly, if people from the Wanjian pirates really come to interfere with the execution, Garp, you must help me stop the people from the Fangjan pirates. Garp said angrily, if those guys from Wanjian pirates really want to do something, we Marines might not be able to stop them altogether. Let me stop it alone, so don't dream. It's not dark yet. Hearing Garp's words, all the Marine executives were silent. They had fought against the Wanjian pirates and knew how strong those monsters were. Sengoku, who was silent for a while, said, if they really come, Garp and I will stop them, and the Whitebeard pirates will be handed over to you 3. Several people nodded in agreement with this method. They have no extra troops to stop Moran and the others. They can only use this method. Whether they can be stopped at that time is up to fate. Moran didn't care about the reactions of the Marines, but looked at Hawkeye in the distance and shouted, Hawkeye, come down and make gestures with me, after all, we haven't seen each other for a long time. I think so too. Hawkeye's eyes lit up when he saw Moran appearing, he gave up the idea of bumping into Whitebeard, and rushed towards Moran while talking. The knife in Moran's hand was replaced by a black knife Chushui. An ordinary knife is not suitable for a head-on confrontation with Hawkeye's black knife. Moran appeared in the sky above Hawkeye in a few flashes, and slashed down fiercely. Hawkeye looked at the falling knife and was not to be outdone. The big black knife swung up from the bottom to meet the knife that Moran slashed down. Clang. Immediately, the whole world was quiet for a while. The aftermath of the collision was like a typhoon, spreading in all directions. The ice surface was shattered by the aftermath. Bump. 2 people. There was a stalemate for a while. Hawkeye pushed Moran away and backed away. Moran made a backflip and landed steadily, then quickly dived over, and the two collided with each other in an instant, competing in sword skills. Bing 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 bing. Jingle. The swordsmanship contest between the two was so fast that the naked eye could not see it, only the moment when the two swords collided, a storm of sword blades formed around them. From time to time, a slash leaked out, and it was just a little aftermath, causing the nearby Marines and pirates to suffer unspeakably. Boom. A pirate was almost hit by the leaked slash, and he said in horror, these two guys are too scary. The pirate next to him said with deep empathy, these two guys are really scary, if this goes on we are not killed by Marine, but we will be killed by the aftermath of their battle. Foil Vista came over and ordered, don't get close to them, go to other places to charge, if you get close to them, you probably won't know how you died. It's Captain Vista. A Marine officer saw this scene, and quickly ordered, stay away from these two guys, this level of strength is just a little aftermath, we can't bear it. Both Marine and pirate stayed away from Moran's battlefield one after another. The pirate Marine left, but Foil Vesta did not. He looked at the two men in the battle with eager eyes. Hawkeye fought a battle, but Moran took the lead. He wanted to wait to see if he had a chance to fight Hawkeye. Even if he couldn't fight, seeing two top swordsmen fight each other would be a worthwhile trip. On the ice battlefield at this time, the captains were like a sharp sword, with an indomitable momentum, tearing a hole in the human wall formed by the Marine soldiers. At this time, Kizaru, who was sitting under the execution platform, stood up and pouted his mouth and said with emotion. As expected of the captains of the Whitebeard pirates, each one is as strong as a monster. After finishing speaking, Kizaru took 2 steps forward, looked at Whitebeard in the distance and continued, if you want to minimize the loss, you can only capture the thief first. Call out. Kizaru directly turned into a ray of light and rushed to the sky, standing in the sky. Like a golden sun, the dazzling light illuminates the entire sky. Okay. So dazzling. What? The dazzling golden light made the pirates on the ice unable to open their eyes. When the golden light turned into Kizaru's appearance, they could open their eyes and see that it was the yellow ape. Immediately exclaimed. Nuo Zaihao, yellow. Kizaru is here. 8-foot Chong-Guyu. Kizaru pinched the orchid fingers with both hands, and dazzling beams of light, like rainwater, fell towards Whitebeard's pirate ship. Whitebeard narrowed his eyes slightly, and said without moving, "Hey, hey. Why are you so dazzling?" Behind Whitebeard, Margao, a pair of wings appeared out of thin air on his back, soaring into the sky in an instant, blocking the golden beam of light that was as dense as rain. Shish. Bump. Although the golden light beams were very dense, they were completely blocked by Margao. Margao flapped his wings, and all the light beams disappeared without a trace, only a wave of air waves spread in all directions. Marine on the ice stared dumbfounded, recovered his senses and exclaimed, "Admiral's attack was actually blocked." Chapter 179. Moran the Vicious Tongue. After returning to calm, a Marine saw Margao's situation clearly, and exclaimed, "Look at that guy, he is surrounded by blue flames." Margao slowly revealed his figure, looked at Kizaru and said, "How can you disturb our king as soon as you come here? It's so scary." The Whitebeard pirates. Kizaru still had a very unbeatable expression, and said with his mouth crooked, "What's with that body? Sure enough, it's the legendary ability. It's even rarer than Logia. Zone, the magic beast demon fruit power. Look at the body as healing, it's unbelievable, that trick doesn't work." A group of uninformed Marines stared dumbfounded on the ice, screaming again and again, forgetting that they were on the battlefield at this time. After the wound on Margao's body healed completely, he said mockingly, "It worked." Kizaru was speechless. "Stop lying. Drink." Margao shouted loudly, turned into a phoenix, flapped his wings in the air, and rushed towards Kizaru quickly. Marine on the ice exclaimed again, "That's Captain 003 of the first team, no matter what attack he receives, he can be reborn from the ashes, the phoenix Margao. I've never seen this kind of bird before." After Kizaru finished speaking, he pinched his orchid fingers again, and dazzling beams of light fell towards Margao like rain. Shish. Turning Margao into a phoenix, the shot was riddled with holes, but it was useless. A hole appeared in the phoenix, and it quickly healed. Margao rushed to the sky above Kizaru, with a golden hook hanging upside down, and a wolf kick. The wolf kicks towards Kizaru. Bump. Kizaru just raised his hand above his head to block Margao's feet, and said with a wretched expression, "This trick also worked." Stop lying. After Margao finished speaking, he let out a loud shout, and kicked Kizaru out with all his strength. Before Kizaru flew out, it turned into a golden light and hit a wall. Boom. Rumbling. Shooted Kizaru Admiral away. It's not true. Kizaru Admiral. The surrounding Marine shouted with concern. The place where Kizaru fell exploded, and the airwaves generated by the explosion made the people around them staggered and couldn't stand upright. Then, a burst of dazzling golden light burst out, quickly turning into Kizaru's appearance. Call out. Kizaru instantly appeared in front of the Marine soldier who had just spoken, and he was unscathed, looking at Margao in the sky. He said with emotion, "It seems that it is not that simple, let me go straight." After speaking, he turned his head and ordered, "Titan troops, you must also pay attention to the sky." Seeing the Titan vice admirals preparing to attack, Marine became vigilant and reminded, "Get ready, the big guys are coming. Aim at their feet and kill them." As soon as the pirate finished talking about Diamond Jazzy, he rushed over and shouted, "Get out of here, all of you." Joe's. A group of pirates turned their heads to look at Joe's, waiting for his explanation, but Diamond Joe's jumped up and punched the ice hard without saying a word. Seeing this scene, a group of pirates could only choose to temporarily retreat. Crack. Boom. Rumble. Diamond Chow's yelled, picked up a huge ice cube, threw it directly towards the execution platform, and shouted, "There is something to block it. It's ice cubes. This is too big." Akainu stood up slowly, and said to himself, "Really, those guys, AWOL, if we all attack, then who will guard this place?" Great eruption. After Akainu finished speaking, his arm quickly turned into a huge magma arm, and he punched hard on the huge ice block. Boom. Rumbling. The huge ice cubes were crushed directly by the hammer, and because of the high temperature of the magma, all the ice cubes disappeared without a trace. The giant magma arms stretched out by Akainu exploded like fireworks, and flaming magma fell to the ice surface one by one. Oops. Run. It's a volcanic bomb. Boom 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 boom. The flaming magma fell into the pirate group on the ice, and the pirate group ran around and fled like a pot exploded. Damn, I can't resist it at all. A-hole. A group of pirates wished they could have 2 more legs, and ran back one after another, crying and howling. Akainu's magma doesn't have eyes, and the Marine on the ice is no better. Bing 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 bing. Jingle. Moran and Hawkeye were fighting inextricably, when suddenly a fiery magma fell on their positions, and the two quickly pushed each other away. Boom. The two retreated 10 meters away and just stood on their feet when a flaming magma landed right in the middle of the two of them. The two of them looked at each other with wicked smiles and turned around to face the direction of the execution platform. Slash with half a moon. Slash the eagle with one blow. The two of them held up the black knives in their hands at the same time, and slashed a huge slash dozens of meters in succession, rushing towards Akainu quickly. Boom. 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 Rumbling. The ice surface that the two slashes passed through was cut into 2 deep grooves one after another, no matter whether it was a person or something standing in front of the slash, they were all divided into 2. Akainu looked at the 2 slashing blows, and cursed angrily with a dark face, "Damn bastards. You are looking for death." Sengoku came to Chi's side and scolded, "Anger can't solve the problem, I'll stop a slash, and the remaining slash will be handed over to you." After Sengoku finished speaking, a golden light appeared on his body, and he quickly turned into a big Buddha. Akainu's arm quickly magmazed and turned into a huge magma arm. Shockwave. Great eruption. The fists of both of them were hammered on the huge slash, but the slash didn't dissipate immediately, but after a stalemate with the fists for a while, it exploded loudly. Boom. Rumbling. Boom. Boom. Moran looked at the slashed by the hammer, and said to Hawkeye angrily, "Go and fight with the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, I'm going to beat him up." Before Hawkeye could speak, Moran turned around and looked at Vista behind him and said, "Vista. Hawkeye is for you to play with." After speaking, he walked towards the execution platform, and when Hawkeye realized it, he cursed angrily with black lines on his face. D's mouth is still as poisonous as ever. Ha 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 hiccup. When Moran heard Hawkeye's words, he turned his head shamelessly and laughed loudly. "Thank you for the compliment." Chapter 180. Moran wants to kill Akainu. Vista watched Moran go away, still in a daze. It was a serious matter, but now that this guy messed with it, the atmosphere suddenly became strange. Vista, who came back to his senses, shook his head, threw some weird thoughts out of his mind, then looked at Hawkeye with a serious face and said, "Then, I will be your next step." Opponent, 7 Warlords of the Sea, Dracul Mahawk. Hawkeye withdrew his gaze from Moran, looked at Vista and said, "The famous New World foil Vista, I have been looking forward to fighting with you for a long time, I hope you will not let me down." "I will never let you down." After Vista finished speaking, he soared into the sky, waving 2 knives with both hands. Looking down, the sword gasified into a big Emperor Red Rose flower. Rondo. Eagle Eyes looked at the sword energy, 847, turned into red rose petals all over the sky, and thought to himself, "Is this the origin of the foil sword?" Hawkeye didn't think too much when he thought of this, because Vista had swooped down in front of him with red rose petals all over the sky, and slashed down fiercely with his 2 knives. Clang. Hawkeye's swordsmanship is not so dazzling, but a knife from the bottom to the top. Although it is just an ordinary knife, it blocks Vista's double swords. Bing 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 bing. Jingle. Next is the swordsmanship contest between the two. The speed of the movement is so fast that it is invisible to the naked eye. You can only see the moment when the two sides collide. The surroundings of the two are like different worlds. Although the petals on one side are beautiful, they are everywhere. There is a murderous intent, but on the other hand, it is just the opposite, a sword storm with sharp edges like a violent storm. Not long after Moran walked out, a Marine rushed over from behind him, and there was a familiar roar. Moran staggered a position, and Marine flew past him. Moran turned around and looked behind him, saw that Luffy and others rushed in from the outside, and thought to himself, "No wonder they were not seen just now, and I thought they hadn't come, so they are on the ship of the pirate group under Whitebeard." Bump. Give me back the ace. Luffy, wait for us. Moran turned around and saw the Straw Hat Pirates, Rayleigh and others, Luffy rampaging in front like a bulldozer, and a group of people followed behind to eat ashes, and there was an inexplicable sense of joy. "Get out of the way for me in front." Rubber pistol. A long rubber arm came punching in Moran's direction, and Moran just raised a hand and grabbed the incoming fist directly in his hand. Ah, call out. When Luffy's arm was grabbed and he was still in a daze, the whole person flew directly towards Moran because of the elasticity of the rubber, and Moran's feet quickly turned black. When Luffy came to him, he kicked directly on his stomach. Bump. Moran grabbed Luffy's arm, and his feet kept kicking out. Luffy bent over like a shrimp and hung on Moran's feet. Seeing that this guy was about to vomit, Moran threw him out quickly, so as not to vomit all over him. Wow. Moran looked at Luffy, who was kneeling on the ground, clutching his stomach and complaining bitterly, walked over slowly, and said with a teasing face, "Luffy, it seems that you haven't remembered the lesson from last time. How dare you fight me? Are you tired of living? Luffy, are you okay?" The members of the Straw Hat Pirates ran over and saw Luffy kneeling on the ground with a painful expression on his face. All of them asked anxiously. Moran looked at Rayleigh, who was guarding Luffy and the others behind him, looking at him with vigilance, and asked with a smile, "Rayleigh, if you bring them to this kind of place, don't you worry about them being killed?" Seeing that Rayleigh still had a vigilant expression on his face, he stared at him firmly, and immediately asked angrily, "Don't say I didn't intend to kill them, even if I wanted to kill them. Rayleigh, can you stop me?" 11. Moran is also speechless. He is not a murderous maniac, why should he be so wary of him? Hearing this, Rayleigh also heaved a sigh of relief. Seeing Luffy kneeling in front of Moran just now, he thought Moran was going to attack Luffy. Rayleigh hadn't spoken yet. Luffy got up and stood up and said, "It's none of Uncle Rayleigh's business, I asked Uncle Rayleigh to bring us here." Then he asked, "Moran, are you also here to save Ace?" Moran didn't hide anything, and explained directly, "I made a deal with Whitebeard, so I helped him save Ace." Hearing this, Luffy jumped up and cheered, and shouted happily, "That's great, you are so strong, you will definitely be able to save Ace." Moran looked at Luffy speechlessly, and secretly complained in his heart, "This guy is really heartless, forget the pain when the scar is healed." Rayleigh watched Luffy finally calm down, and then asked curiously, "You Wanjian pirates, are you the only one here?" Rayleigh actually wanted to ask if it would be okay for you to come alone, but he didn't ask directly, but asked in another way so as not to offend this guy. Moran also heard what Rayleigh meant, and said angrily, "Even if I come alone, I'm 100 times or 1,000 times better than you, a bad old man." Rayleigh explained with a wry smile, "I don't mean anything else, I'm just worried that if you're alone, it might not be so easy to rescue Ace." Moran alone can hold down 1 or 2 strong men at most, but it doesn't have much effect on this kind of war. Marine can hold him back as long as he sends out a top-level strong man. Marine is not afraid of Moran alone, but he was afraid of those monsters on his boat. Rayleigh secretly sighed in his heart. Moran didn't explain much, but pointed to the execution platform and said, "Rayleigh, look at that handsome man on the execution platform, doesn't he look very much like me?" Wow, that's amazing. There are 2 Morans. The members of the Straw Hat Pirates, who had never seen Moran's clone before, glanced at Moran, then at the Moran clone on the execution platform, and exclaimed with wide-eyed eyes. Rayleigh once saw Uchiha Itachi using a clone on 5.7, so he immediately guessed, "That's just your clone, or is your crew member Uchiha Itachi changed?" Moran said triumphantly, "That's right, that's my avatar. Since I can go up once and leave the avatar on it, I can go up a second time. Do you still think it's difficult for me to save that fool? Goodbye." After Moran finished speaking, he continued to walk in the direction of Akainu, not to waste his saliva with them. He not only wanted to beat up Akainu, but also wanted to kill Akainu if he had the chance, because after the Summit War, the battle for marshals began, and he doesn't want Akainu to take this position. Although she is not afraid of Marine, he is afraid of trouble. Titan Vice Admiral Chapter 181, The 3 Great Ones in an Instant. Rayleigh looked at Moran who was slowly walking away, and secretly sighed in his heart. It's okay to be a mess of strength, and there are so many strange abilities, it must be very painful to be his enemy. But this guy is capricious in every aspect. Now he is saving Ace, maybe he will kill Ace in the next second. Thinking of this, Rayleigh still feels that relying on others is better than relying on himself, and said to Luffy beside him, "Luffy, we're going behind this guy and it's a lot easier for us with him opening the way." I see. When Moran just came to the edge of the ice, 3 Titan Vice Admiral rushed out, trying to prevent him from landing on the square. Each of them was holding a 40-meter machete, slashed at Moran and shouted, "Dragon Emperor Moran, you don't even think about going up to the square, keep it here for me." Clang. Moran raised his black knife above his head to catch the machete from the Titan Vice Admiral in front of him. The 2 of them were still in a stalemate, and another Titan Vice Admiral swung the machete and came over. Moran quickly covered Hawkeye with his left hand, and raised his hand to grab the falling machete. Clang. Crack. No matter how hard the Titan Vice Admiral tried, he couldn't pull the knife out. Moran squeezed the machete slightly, and the machete was crushed into pieces. Boom. At this time, another long gun was stabbed at the back of the head. Moran turned his head to the right as if he had eyes behind his back, and the long gun directly stabbed the Titan Vice Admiral in front of him from his left shoulder. The female Titan Vice Admiral, who was stabbing with a long gun behind her, was startled when she saw this scene, and just about to take back the long gun that was thrown out. Moran's hand had caught the long gun at some point, and she couldn't pull the long gun back with all her strength. Moran's arm holding the knife flicked the machete above his head, grabbed the spear, jumped up, and stabbed the heart of the Titan Vice Admiral in front of him. The female Titan Vice Admiral stared helplessly at her spear, and shouted to her comrade in despair, "No." Puff. However, how could Moran listen to him? The Titan Vice Admiral in front was directly pierced by a spear through his chest, and a long spearhead was exposed from behind, and he fell slowly behind him. Boom. Rakwall Vice Admiral. The remaining 2 Titan Vice Admirals, a man and a woman, looked at the fallen Rakwar Vice Admiral and glared at Moran angrily. The male Titan roared angrily, "You be asterisk 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 D. How dare you kill the solicitor?" Moran directly ignored their murderous eyes, and said with disdain, "Don't show yourself in front of me before you're ready to die. You be asterisk 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 D." Boom. The male Titan Vice Admiral was still swearing. Moran disappeared in an instant before he could finish his sentence, and was trampled out of a deep pit on the spot. Meteor flash. Wow. Like a shooting star, Moran swiped past the male Titan Vice Admiral, and instantly appeared behind the male Titan Vice Admiral. Puff. It took a while for the male Titan Vice Admiral's chest to burst into a cloud of blood. From the shoulder to the waist of the male Titan Vice Admiral's chest, there was a deep wound with bone visible, bleeding continuously. Ronsa Vice Admiral. A-hole. I'm fighting with you. The female Titan Vice Admiral came up behind Moran in a few steps, waved her casserole-sized fist, and punched directly at the back of Moran's head. Moran quickly turned around, raised the black knife and wanted to slash, but then put it down again, quickly covered Hawkeye with his feet, soared into the sky and came to her chest in an instant, kicking her chest fiercely. Boom. Rumbling. Moran kicked where he shouldn't have kicked, causing him to fly upside down for a few meters. After a backflip, he finally landed on the ice. The female Titan was kicked upside down and hit the ice. There was no movement for a long time. Moran glanced at her, then continued to walk towards the square, feeling secretly in his heart, "It's a pity to cut such a beautiful woman. But the elasticity is a bit scary." Exclamation mark. Moran walked towards the square step by step, and the passing Marines ran away when they saw him, and no one dared to stop his footsteps. A Marine's feet were so weak that he couldn't run, so he sat down on the ice, looked at Moran with horror and said, "Titan Vice Admiral was killed in an instant, how could we beat this monster?" A Marine next to him wanted to help him up, and shouted at the Marine sitting on the ice, "Stand up and run, or you will die." However, Marine, who was sitting on the ice, didn't get up, but said with a mournful face, "I can't run anymore because my feet don't work." However, Moran just walked past him without even looking at him. Moran's eyes flashed red, and Hawkeye's domineering color was fully opened, and his whole body was like a rainbow. Every time Moran takes a step, his aura becomes stronger. Those who are weak on the ice, whether they are Marines or pirates, roll their eyes and fall to the ground. The ice under their feet cannot bear his aura, and the surrounding ice a series of spider web cracks began to appear. Bang, 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 caw, caw, this suffocating sense of oppression, what is going on? Could this be the legendary Conqueror's Hawkeye, where only one person will appear in a million people? Dragon Emperor Moran really deserves his reputation, relying on his momentum, he knocked down so many marine elites and pirate powerhouses in an instant. Everyone on the ice battlefield forgot to fight, and they all opened their mouths in shock, watching Moran force approaching the square like a rainbow. Whitebeard's expression was ugly, watching Moran throwing Hawkeye indiscriminately, but he didn't say anything. After all, the number of pirates is not as many as Marines, but they are generally stronger than Marines, so most of the fallen are Marines. To a certain extent, Moran's random placement of Hawkeye is beneficial to their Whitebeard pirates. But Sengoku is not just as simple as an ugly face. Looking at the 5 to 60,000 Marines, less than half of them can stand now. This is their carefully selected elite Marine, not just a cat or a dog. Sengoku gritted his teeth and cursed. This be ******** Moran, I will kill him sooner or later, this is a whole tens of thousands of Marine elites, how dare he? Moran looked at Shichibukai on the edge of the square in front of him, pressed over with all his momentum, and asked blankly, are you guys standing here intending to intercept me? Foo. Cold sweat broke out on Doflamingo's forehead, and he forced a smile and said, I dare not stop monsters like you, and I don't know about the others. Chapter 182. Gecko Moria, who killed him, was instantly killed by Moran. After Doflamingo finished speaking, he left here. Moran glanced at Doflamingo who was slowly walking away, thinking in his heart that it was a pity, he wanted to take the opportunity to kill him, but he didn't expect this guy to be so flexible, he just ran away, it doesn't matter anyway, the summit war is over, he is also going to Doflamingo's lair. Moran did not hide his malice, and the strong and observation Hawkeye masters can feel malice and hostility, not to mention Moran's undisguised malice. Doflamingo, who was walking slowly, suddenly felt a deep malice behind him. Immediately without looking back, he let go of his feet and ran wildly. Boa Hancock blushed, and stammered to Moran, after Moran finishes here, I can marry you, ah no, can I talk to you? Moran looked at this well-known beauty, and after thinking about it for a while, he understood what was going on, probably because of the celestial dragons, Boa Hancock was like this. Wherever he goes now, people are always watching his every move. He was in Sabayati Archipelago and celestial dragons died. Anyone with a discerning eye can guess that he killed celestial dragons. Boa Hancock is not surprised to know him. After thinking about this, Moran said to her, after the war here is over, come to Sabayati Archipelago to find me. However, what Moran didn't know was that he guessed wrong this time. He knew that there were indeed quite a few celestial dragons killed by him, but they were all big forces, such as Marine GMJ-4 Emperors, or people with special sources of information like Doflamingo. But Boa Hancock is not in this list, she knows or Doflamingo told her. Really? Boa Hancock asked happily. After seeing Moran nodding, he happily covered his flushed face, but he was fantasizing about something unhealthy. After a while, he came back to his senses and said, that concubine I won't disturb you anymore, I will go to Sabayati Archipelago to find you, you must wait for me. Humph. After Boa Hancock left, Gecko Moria glared at Moran, snorted before slowly walking away with his fat body full of pride. Meteor flash. Wow. Like a shooting star, Moran quickly passed by Gecko Moria's neck, only an afterimage could be seen, and appeared in front of him in an instant. Gecko Moria covered his neck with his hands, bright red blood slowly flowed out from his fingers, no matter how hard he covered it, he couldn't hold it, he couldn't speak, he could only stare at Moran with wide eyes. Boom. Looking at Gecko Moria who fell behind him, Moran complained with disdain on his face, if you don't have the strength, just obediently behave like a man with your tail between your legs. How dare you show me a face? Do you think I'm made of mud? One Piece Moran, confirmation is complete. While Moran was still chattering, the big bear holding a book suddenly started talking to himself. After speaking, he opened his mouth wide open, and a ball of golden energy gathered in his mouth, followed by a golden light beam attack, from because the bear shot Moran in the mouth. Call out. Boom. Suddenly, a red light flashed in Moran's eyes, and he disappeared instantly. When he reappeared, Moran was suspending in midair with green energy all over his body. Boom. Boom. A big crater was blasted out by the golden light beam on the original ice surface. Moran floated in the air and looked at the big bear on the side of the square. At the beginning, this guy has been transformed into unconsciousness, but you have to try it to know. Thinking of this, Mo came behind Big Bear in an instant. Big Bear turned around quickly, opened his mouth wide, golden energy gathered in his mouth. Moran looked at this guy and wanted to spit again, and stepped on the top of his head fiercely in anger. Bump. The big bear opened its big mouth, and was directly closed by Moran's foot. The golden energy exploded in the mouth, and the big bear twitched with smoke from its mouth, but it didn't fall down, and slapped Moran above his head. Moran Sharingan turned around, and the big bear's palm passed directly through him, as if there was no entity, and Moran, who landed on the square, raised the black knife in his hand, and slashed at the big bear. Wow. The big bear's chest was cut open by Moran, but inside was not flesh and blood, but various wires and metal parts. The big bear slapped Moran again as if he didn't know the pain. The palm passed through Moran's body as before, and Moran's feet quickly turned black and soared into the sky, stepping hard on the big bear's celestial cap. Boom. Rumble. A cloud of dust kicked up on the ground. Moran quickly landed on the ground, watching the big bear who wanted to get up again mercilessly stomped down hard with one foot hanging. Boom, boom, boom. Moran stepped on it for an unknown number of times, until the big bear in the deep pit was riddled with holes and twitched all over and could no longer get up. Moran looked at the big bear who was already like this under his feet, but still didn't grunt, and thought to himself, it seems that this guy has lost consciousness. Save this guy who meets GMJ in the future. Maybe he can severely blackmail them. GMJ is some. 0. Moran's Sharingan turned slowly, taking advantage of the dust before it dissipated, and when others could not see the situation inside, it directly absorbed the power into the Kamui space. Akainu looked at the Shichibukai, except for the big bear, who had no intention of fighting at all. He gritted his teeth and cursed. Pirates are pirates after all. The Shichibukai are really unreliable. The evil pirates should be wiped out. After finishing speaking, Akainu walked towards Moran angrily, thinking in his heart, if you don't stop this guy, you will be shot through a road that leads directly to the execution platform. Seeing this scene, Sengoku on the side stopped him angrily. Akainu, don't forget that you are still injured. If you stop him in your current state, you are undoubtedly going to die. After Sengoku finished speaking, he turned his head to look at Garp, who was not far away, and shouted, Garp, go and stop this guy. Don't let him get close to the execution platform. He still can't leave the execution platform. He still hasn't figured out what is on the execution platform, so he must stay under the execution platform to avoid any irreversible situation. Garp glanced at Sengoku upon hearing this, and obediently went to prevent Moran from approaching the execution platform. Although he was very reluctant, he could not disobey the order. Chapter 183. Sengoku can't wake up Garp, who pretends to be dead. Akainu, who was stopped by Sengoku, could only stare at Moran with murderous eyes at this time, as if this could really kill Moran. Garp, who had not gone far, thought secretly in his heart at this moment, I will deliberately show a few flaws later. With the strength of that kid Moran, he should be able to knock me down, right? So happy to decide. Thinking of Garp here, he pretended to rush towards Moran, shouting while rushing, Dragon Emperor Moran, today I will be your opponent, if you want to pass by me, unless you step on my body. Iron fist bone crushing. Garp swooped down at a high speed, and instantly came to the sky in front of Moran, waving his casserole-sized fist, and directly hammered Moran's head. Moran no longer underestimates these top experts. In the past, he did not dare to confront these top experts head-on because he was not strong enough. Now he is no longer the weak chicken who needed protection from before, but a top-notch strong man who has grown up. The black knife quickly covered Hawkeye, and with a simple stroke, it slashed fiercely on Garp's hammered fist. Bump. Click. 21 click. Immediately the whole world was quiet for a while, followed by typhoon-like air waves, which spread in all directions in circles, and the Marines on the square were blown everywhere by the air waves. The ground beneath Moran's feet was covered in cobwebs. Bump. After a stalemate for a while, Moran used all his strength to send Garp flying backwards. Garp flew upside down more than 10 meters away, and landed on the ground with a backflip, and he still managed to stabilize his figure by drawing a few meters away. Just as Garp stabilized his figure, Moran was exuding an overwhelming aura, and at some point he had already reached the sky in front of him, and he slashed down fiercely with a single knife. In a hurry, Garp raised the arm covering Hawkeye across his head, trying to block Moran's falling black knife. Boom. Rumbling. The aftermath of the collision was stronger than before. Marine, who had just gained a firm footing in the square, was blown upside down by waves of shock waves, sending them flying upside down and hitting them in the distance. Spider webs appeared on the ground under Garp's feet. Half of his body was smashed into the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust, and no one outside could see what was going on inside. Sengoku sensed the situation inside with a sense of knowledge, and his face gradually darkened. It was not that he had never fought with Moran, so he naturally knew how much Moran was. No matter what, Garp shouldn't be at a disadvantage, and he cursed secretly in his heart. D************ Garp still puts water on me at this time. After the war is over, let's see how I deal with you. D. What Sengoku didn't know was that Garp really wanted to release the water at the beginning, but at this time he didn't have this idea, because he felt that he was not Moran's opponent if he didn't release the water. Garp felt the black knife on his head that was as heavy as mountains and rivers, and secretly groaned in his heart. How long has it been? The last time he fought against this D, he was punched to the sky by himself. Now he was cut directly into the ground. What is going on with this guy? It is actually not difficult to understand this situation. Before Moran came here, he had integrated a lot of abilities. These abilities brought him more than just abilities. If Moran opens his personal page at this time, the physical skill is already at the same level as Senju Hashirama. Moran looked at Garp's bitter face, and joked. Garp, what did you say just now? It seems that you want me to step over you. After Moran finished speaking, he saw that Garp was wondering what he was thinking, and while he was in a daze, his foot quickly turned black, and he kicked Garp directly on the chin. Bump. Boom. Rumbling. Garp could have resisted with his free hand, but to Moran's surprise, he didn't resist and was kicked and flew upside down and smashed under the execution platform. That's Vice Admiral Garp. It actually knocked out Vice Admiral Garp. What's going on? Isn't even Vice Admiral Garp a match for this guy? Who else can stop this monster? The hero Garp is the existence of Marine's belief, but at this time he was beaten upside down by Moran, and Garp's image in their hearts was greatly reduced in an instant. Although it would not cause Marine's faith to collapse, it also made Marine's morale low. Is even worse. Gu la 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 la. Whitebeard saw Moran opened the way to the square. He laughed and ordered, "Son, the road to the square has been opened. Follow this road and rush to the square to save Ace. Rush to the plaza and save Ace. Duck duck. Ho 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 ho." Sengoku looked at Garp lying not far from the execution platform, face down and motionless. No need to think about it, he knew that Garp just didn't want to get up. How could this level of attack knock down this old guy? Thinking of this, Sengoku gritted his teeth angrily and shouted, "B************ D Garp, do you want to lie there until you die?" Seeing Garp lying on the ground still motionless, Sengoku already guessed what this old guy was thinking. I guess I don't want to see my grandson die in front of me, and I can't make a move, but I don't want to stop the person who rescued Ace either. At this time, 117 Akainu next to him suddenly reminded him. When Alpha_Point Moran was in the recruit training camp, he was a student of Teacher Zephyr. I heard that they have a very good relationship. He didn't continue to talk about it here, he had already said it so clearly. If Sengoku still didn't understand, then the position of Marshal should also be replaced. Akainu thought secretly in his heart. After performing a face-changing Sichuan opera, Sengoku waved to the Marine soldiers not far away, called a Marine soldier and said, "You go to contact Zephyr instructor and ask him to come to my place, just say that I have something to look for him." It's the Marshal. Sengoku watched the Marine soldiers leave, and stood there waiting anxiously. Seeing the road pierced by Moran, he told Akainu on the side, "The rest of Akainu can't get away now. Go and block the gap. If it doesn't work, open the encirclement ahead of time." He had just given the order to retreat, but at this time Marine would be unable to get away for a while, so he did not open the encirclement for a long time. Akainu wanted to go around Moran and go to the edge of the square, blocking the pirates who wanted to rush to the square. He knew that he was injured all over his body, so he couldn't be Moran's opponent. He is a tough guy but not a fool. Chapter 184. Akainu was seriously injured and thrown into the sea. However, how could Moran let him go around? Seeing Akainu leave Sengoku's side and start to act alone, with Sengoku by his side, it is impossible for Moran to kill Akainu by himself, so Moran has been looking for opportunities, now the opportunity has finally come. Moran secretly sighed in his heart. There is a way to heaven and you don't go, but you break in if there is no way to hell. This is because even God doesn't want you to live on. Moran's eyes instantly turned into Mangekyo Sharingan, and the big windmills in the blood-red pupils turned slowly, and Moran slowly disappeared without a trace. Da da da. At this time, a Marine soldier trotted over sweating profusely, came behind Sengoku and reported, "Report. Marshal Sengoku, Zephyr instructor didn't come, and asked me to tell you that he probably won't come to participate in this event of war." After hearing the news, Sengoku's face was as black as the bottom of a pot, and he gritted his teeth and cursed angrily. Garp is like this, but now even you, Zephyr, are like this, everyone is an A*hole. Sengoku regained his senses after a while, and suddenly remembered that according to Zephyr's personality, he is not the kind of man who would refuse to participate in the war. Thinking of Sengoku here, he looked at the Marine soldier 763 in front of him, and asked, "Has Zephyr behaved abnormally today? Or did you say anything you shouldn't have said when you went to him?" The Marine soldier was sweating profusely, racked his brains and thought for a while before saying, "If you want to say something abnormal, it is that Zephyr instructor was going to come over, but I told him halfway, after the news that the Dragon Emperor Moran rushed to the square, he suddenly changed his mind and said nothing about coming." Sengoku stared angrily at the Marine soldier in front of him, wishing he could slap this fool to death. He originally wanted to fool Zephyr over and let him stop Moran, but unexpectedly, he was caught by this fool. Those words ruined the plan, it really is better than God. Sengoku. You go down first. Yes. The Marine soldier walked away tremblingly with an expression of the rest of his life. He just saw Sengoku gnashing his teeth, and thought that Sengoku was going to kill him. While Sengoku was talking to the Marine soldiers, Akainu was also walking towards the edge of the square step by step, when Uzumaki suddenly appeared behind him, and stabbed him with a pitch-black knife. A red light flashed in Akainu's eyes, he was startled and thought that something was wrong, he hurriedly avoided the vital point, but was stabbed through the right chest with a knife. The long point of the knife protruded from his right chest. Akainu took a few steps forward, pulled out the knife, covered the bleeding wound, and turned to look behind him. At this time, Moran also just came out of Uzumaki, saw that Akainu was only pierced through the right chest, and immediately taunted a little unhappy. "You guys are not very strong, but your alertness is quite high." Moran aimed at Akainu's heart and stabbed it, but he avoided it all. He must have been driving the observation hockey all the time. Akainu. The majestic Dragon Emperor, does he only play sneak attacks? Moran. Sneak attack is also a skill, isn't it? After Moran finished speaking, he swooped towards Akainu. He would not give the enemy a chance to breathe. He rushed in front of Akainu in an instant, and slashed across him fiercely. Akainu also knew that he couldn't retreat at this time, otherwise he would give his back to this guy. He would not be able to die with a few lives. His arm quickly melted into lava, and he clenched his fist and punched it on the cutting blade. Boom, boom, rumbling. After the two collided in a stalemate for a while, Akainu, a seriously injured person, how could he be Moran's opponent, was thrown upside down and hit the ice below the square, drawing a long line on the ice. Long trench. Moran followed closely behind and jumped down, swooping down and came to the sky above Akainu in an instant. He just wanted to kill Akainu now. One knife flow, meteor, CBDH, rain. Before Akainu could react, one after another slashed towards Akainu who was still lying on the ice like a storm. Boom. Rumbling. Boom. Rumbling. When Moran landed on the ice where Akainu was on had been split badly, and pieces of broken ice were floating on the water. Akainu was sitting on a relatively large piece of ice at this time, and there were several wounds on his body, and the blood flow continued to dye the whole piece of ice bright red. Akainu probably hasn't healed from the serious injury he suffered last time, and now he is probably holding on. He made up for it once or twice in the past, and it should be almost the same. Exclamation mark. Thinking of this, Moran instantly turned into a flash of lightning, and then rushed towards Akainu quickly. A few flashes appeared in the sky above Akainu. Sengoku, who had just swung the marine soldier's back, happened to see this scene, and immediately shouted, "Kizaru! Hurry up and save Akainu, hurry up!" Call out. At the critical moment, Kizaru finally came to the ice where Akainu was. Seeing Moran holding up the black knife and chopping down, Kizaru did not dare to neglect. Amazon Cloud Sword. Kizaru clasped his palms together and pulled out a golden long sword made entirely of photons, soaring up to the sky and wiping the sword from bottom to top, meeting the falling black knife. Clang. Kizaru felt the power transmitted from the black knife, and the cold sweat flowed down. Now Moran will be unlucky whoever confronts him head-on. Garp is afraid, let alone this Kizaru with the worst physical skills. Kizaru thought in his heart that it was terrible. Sure enough, after the two of them were in a stalemate in the air for a while, he couldn't stand it anymore, and was directly smashed to the direction of Akainu. Boom. Boom. Call out. The moment Kizaru collided with the ice cube, he had a little buffer time, and instantly turned into light and ran away by himself. However, Akainu suffered an indiscriminate disaster. The ice cube was crushed by Kizaru, and Akainu also fell after the ice cube shattered into the sea. Moran was covered with green energy, floating in the air, looking at Kizaru who was running away in a panic, and sarcastically said, "Kizaru, you were very handsome when you rushed over, but you are very embarrassed when you run away." Kizaru ignored Moran's sarcasm, but scolded the marine soldiers not far away, "Even those with abilities can't swim, go down and save people." "What are you doing?" Akainu Admiral fell into the sea, "Hurry up and save people." "Even those with abilities can't swim, go down and save people." Plop. 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 A group of Marines jumped into the sea one by one like dumpling, trying to rescue Akainu, an ability user who can't swim. Chapter 185. Kizaru, cut off arm. However, how could Moran let them succeed? Landed on a relatively large piece of ice, squatted down and put his palms into the sea water, and then showed a smirk on his face. Seeing Moran's smiling face, Kizaru's heart skipped a beat, and a bad premonition hit his heart. Then Kizaru suddenly remembered that this guy is a thunder fruit capable user, thunder. Water. It's over. It didn't take long to verify Kizaru's thoughts, and white lightning burst out from Moran's body, and lightning bolts flowed down Moran's arms into the sea water. Discharge 200 million volts. ZZZ. Crackling. What? This sea, there is electricity in the sea water. On the surrounding sea that was cut by Moran, 390, flashed one after another in the sea, and the stronger ones could jump a few times at the beginning, and then the marine in the sea followed a group of fish, turning their bellies together. It took only a few seconds for them to surface, and they were all electrocuted to death before they climbed ashore. Kizaru, go and stop that guy, I'll go down and save him. A figure as fast as lightning plunged headfirst into the sea just after he finished speaking. Thump. Kizaru looked at the person who plunged into the sea, and said helplessly, "It seems that I have to work hard again, but I hope this monster will not take it too seriously." Yada mirror. Kizaru accumulated a piece of mirror-like light in his hand, and the emitted light beam was refracted and bounced back to Moran, forming a track of light, through which Kizaru instantly came to Moran. Seeing that Moran wanted to squat down again to discharge electricity, Kizaru raised his 2-meter-long legs without saying a word, and swept across the back of Moran's head. Moran was about to squat down to discharge electricity, but when he felt the sound of the back of his head breaking through the air, he could only turn around helplessly, and slashed fiercely at the sweeping leg. Click, click. It was as if a bomb had been thrown into the surrounding sea, and a large expanse of sea water was thrown up. The aftermath of the collision between the two blasted out cobwebs on the ice block Moran was standing on. Seeing that the ice block was about to shatter, Moran burst out green energy as suspended. Bump. But Kizaru directly withdrew the power on his feet, and flew backwards with the help of the power from Moran's knife, landing on the ice in the distance. His ability is only able to leap into the air for a short time, but he can't directly levitate in place like Moran. Moran swooped down from the sky and aimed at Kizaru. This guy dared to spoil his good deeds, he had to pay for it. Moran quickly came to the sky above Kizaru, swooped down and slashed down fiercely with a knife. Amazon Cloud Sword. Kizaru sensed Moran's aura and didn't dare to neglect at all. He folded his palms together and took out his golden long sword, facing the falling black knife with an upward stroke. Clang. Boom. Boom. At the moment of the collision, cracks appeared on the ice surface under Kizaru's feet, and circles of air waves were like typhoons, and the air currents carried broken ice blocks in all directions. The two remained in a stalemate while chopping, and Moran's foot quickly turned black and kicked Kizaru hard in the chest. When Moran kicked over, Kizaru directly elementalized into a golden light, a hand suddenly stretched out from the light ball, a finger was still shining with golden light, and a lightning-fast beam shot towards Moran. Call out. Moran Sharingan turned around, ignoring the incoming light beam, raised the black knife in his hand, and slashed directly at Kizaru's arm that was out of the light circle. Wow. Boom. The golden beam directly passed through Moran's chest, flew straight to the distance and exploded, but Moran was unscathed, as if he was not there at all. What? Kizaru screamed, picked up the arm that fell on the ice, and immediately opened the distance with Moran, and stopped when he reached a safe distance. Moran looked at Kizaru who ran tens of meters away, and asked sarcastically, Kizaru, aren't you going to hold me back? How can you hold me back after running so far? Kizaru no longer pouted obscenely, but with cold sweat on his forehead, staring at Moran with an ugly face and asked, this damn ability again. He aimed at Moran's heart, but Moran just wanted to cut off his arm, so no matter how he counted, he was not at a loss, so he chose to exchange life with Moran, but he forgot, Moran's touch not enough ability, resulting in losing his wife and losing his army. Moran smiled back and asked, do you think I'm a fool? I'm not sure, how could I trade my life for your arm? Moran deliberately used himself as a bait, using Kizaru's heart that he thought he could kill him, and managed to kill him. He is not Acedus who has the ability to freeze time and space. Faced with such a fast speed, if you want to kill him as soon as possible to end the battle, only some special means can be used. Kizaru Admiral's arm was cut off. Even Admiral is not the opponent of this guy, how could we be the opponent of this monster? Marine who saw this scene showed despairing expressions, Garp is not an opponent, and now even Admiral is not an opponent, they have no hope of winning at all. Seeing Kizaru's broken arm, Sengoku didn't say much, but said to Kizaru, Kizaru, go and deal with the arm first, if it takes too long, you won't be able to connect it. Kizaru took a deep look at Moran, and without saying a word, he turned into a golden beam that soared into the sky and flew towards the rear of naval headquarters. Call out. Moran was just about to chase Kizaru to trouble him, when the C-4.6 suddenly exploded, one person carried another person, and rushed out of the sea directly. Moran saw Garp carrying Akainu, felt his heart beating, and immediately wondered, why is this guy so hard to kill? After Garp handed Akainu to the marine soldiers, he turned his head to look at Moran, and asked with an ugly face, are you here to save people or to kill people? Do you know the consequences of losing the balance in the sea after the death of an admiral? Quote. Moran said sarcastically, Garp, you have to figure it out, I'm not a marine, but a pirate, so the balance of the sea is not my business. While talking to Garp, Moran kept looking at Akainu who was being sent to the rear of naval headquarters. He was a bit reconciled to Akainu's death. Chapter 186. A huge meteorite falls towards the execution platform. Garp saw that Moran was still aiming at Akainu, and immediately yelled angrily, you be **********, people have been beaten like this by you, what else do you want? Moran said unabashedly. I wanted to kill him, but it looks like I have no chance today. After Moran finished speaking, he suddenly thought about it, showed a smirk, and whispered to Garp. Garp, let me make a deal with you. You let me go over and kill Akainu. How about I rescue Ace for you? Kong Iron Fist. Garp rushed to the sky in front of Moran in an instant, swooped down to face his head, and it was the wolf's punch that knocked him down. Seeing Garp ignoring him, but rushing directly to hammer him, Moran Mangekyo Sharingan turned around and punched directly through his head. Bump. Ka. Because of inertia, Garp couldn't hold back his fist, so he punched directly on the ice surface, and cracks appeared on the ice surface from where Garp punched. Moran cancelled the ability of Sharingan Kamui, turned around and raised the black knife, and slashed down on Garp's back. Wow. Moran looked at the dark Garp behind him, and was speechless for a while. He slashed with all his strength, but there was only a shallow wound. This old guy's hockey must have been trained to the top. Seeing Garp standing up like a normal person, Moran still couldn't believe it. Red light flashed in his eyes, the two-color hockey covered the black knife, his whole body was like a rainbow, he swooped in front of Garp in an instant, and slashed across with the knife. Garp also waved his casserole-sized fist, facing the knife that Moran was slashing at him alive, he clenched his fist and punched it without hesitation. Boom. Rumbling. The instant the two collided, within a range of 100 meters, the ice surface was directly shattered by the aftermath, and the seawater broke through the ice. Circles of air waves, like typhoons, rushed in all directions with ice slag and ice, and the two were also hit by the recoil. Flying upside down. After flying upside down for a while, Moran emitted green energy from his body, stopped in the air, and quickly rushed towards Garp who was still flying upside down. After a few flashes, he caught up with Garp and slashed down fiercely. Garp was still flying backwards due to inertia, and only had time to cover hockey with his hands crossed, and Moran's knife slashed down. Ding. Ding WW. Bump. Moran chased and slashed Garp twice, but couldn't break Garp's hockey. Moran kicked him in the stomach in anger. Garp was kicked and fell to the ice quickly. Boom. Rumble. Garp's whole body fell on the ice, directly smashing through the ice, setting off a large spray of ice slag, and the surrounding spider web cracks spread for hundreds of meters. Kaka, hurry up and stay away from these two monsters. The Marines or pirates around saw more and more cracks on the ice under their feet, and they were frightened and ran away. Moran looked at Garp who fell into the sea in the air, and then at the direction of the execution platform. Green energy burst out from his body, and he raised his hand and pulled it down violently. Boom. It took a while for Garp to rush out of the sea, but before he could recover, there was a whirring sound in the sky. Hoo. Garp raised his head with a stiff neck, and after seeing clearly what fell in the sky, Garp cursed directly, "Moran, your uncle." Garp rushed towards the execution platform in the square cursing, because the meteorite pulled down by Moran did not hit Garp, but fell in the direction of execution. A huge meteorite hundreds of meters in flames was falling rapidly towards the execution platform. That's meteorites. Not good. Run away. It's so huge. Where can I escape to? Marine under the execution platform looked at the meteorites falling from the sky. Some were desperately trying to escape, while others gave up resistance and sat down on the ground, watching the meteorites getting closer and closer with a look of despair. Sengoku looked at this scene with a dark face and remembered that when Moran made a big fuss at naval headquarters last time, he also pulled down a meteorite like now. Last time, so many people cooperated, but they couldn't completely catch it, and now Marine's high-end combat power is entangled by pirates, and only Garp can free up his hands to help. It seems that Song can minimize the loss as much as possible. Sengoku thought of this, and said to Garp, who rushed over, "Garp, go up and smash the meteorite, and leave the rest to me." "I see." Boom. After Garp responded, he stomped on the ground and soared into the sky, leaving a big hole in the ground. He clenched his fists and covered Hawkeye, with veins popping out of his arms. Kong Meteor Fist. Not long after, Garp rushed to the meteorite, exhausted all his strength, and punched hard on the meteorite. Chuck. Click. Boom. Rumbling. The moment the fist collided with the meteorite, a series of spider web cracks quickly covered the entire meteorite, and finally exploded with a bang, and meteorites of different sizes continued to fall towards the execution platform. Sengoku shouted and a golden light appeared on his body, and after he directly turned into a big Buddha, a golden energy appeared on the palm of his hand. Big Buddha shockwave. Sengoku slapped the sky, and suddenly a huge shock wave hit the falling meteorite. Boom. Rumbling. Boom. Rumbling. Most of the meteorites that fell were smashed into pieces by the shock wave, but many continued to fall. Not good. A meteorite block has fallen. Run away quickly. Sengoku looked at the marine soldiers who were still running around in the square, and ordered to the soldiers on the side. Notify the people in the square, for the most part all retreat to the house, and don't run around in the square. Yes. Seeing that the marine soldiers finally stopped messing around and retreated to the house one after another, Sengoku thought to himself, although these meteorites are not big, if they are hit, they will be in danger of life. Shish. Bang bang bang. The meteorite blocks finally fell on the square. The meteorite blocks, like hail, smashed the square into pits and holes, and some roofs were directly smashed through. Moran saw in the air that Sengoku didn't pay attention to him, and fell directly to the ice, and a wooden golem clone appeared next to him, but Moran himself sneaked into the Kamui space. Sengoku has been staring at him, making him unable to do anything, so his meteorite will hit the execution platform. The purpose is to divert Sengoku's attention. Chapter 187. Sneaking behind Marineford to kill Akainu. Moran is using three things at once. He doesn't know Shadow Clone, so he uses Wood Clone Technique, and Wood Clone Technique needs to be controlled by himself at all times. When Moran used Clone Technique for the first time, it felt strange to have three visions, and he was very uncomfortable with the sudden addition of three visions. So the clone on the execution platform, since it was released, has been sitting quietly on the execution platform, looking a little dull. There is no way he got this ability in less than a day, and he didn't even have a chance to get acquainted with it. If you have time, you must learn Shadow Clone Technique. Each clone has its own consciousness, and you don't need to worry about it when you release it. You only need to order what you want to do. Moran controlled the clone on the ice and walked towards Whitebeard's ship, passing the battle between Margao and Aokiji, who were fighting hard. Bump. Boom. Rumbling. Aokiji also saw Moran approaching, and was stunned for a moment, but Margao seized the opportunity and kicked him in the chest. He was kicked and flew upside down, hitting the ice surface more than 10 meters away. Moran smiled and looked at Aokiji, who was kicked away, and teased him. Aokiji, 3 admirals are still here, you are the only one left, why don't you let me give you a ride too? Aokiji climbed up from the ice, looked at Moran as if facing a formidable enemy, and asked in a deep voice, what do you want to do? Aokiji really can't understand Moran's approach. If he really wants to save people, plus Whitebeard and the others, Marine can't resist at all. But this guy broke into the battlefield single-handedly, making troubles without saving anyone, he really can't think of Chijia. Moran thought about what the main body was doing at this time, and said with a mysterious face, it is not convenient to reveal what I am going to do, but you will know it in a short time, and maybe you will be grateful to me then. Moran, I don't need help here, you can help others. At this moment, Margao thought that Moran was really here to help him, and suddenly said with a smile. Moran said angrily, stop talking big, if you hadn't caught that monkey just now, I would have killed that mad dog long ago. Margao thought that just now Kizaru really ran from him to Moran to rescue Akainu, and immediately explained with embarrassment, Kizaru's speed is too fast, he wants to run, and I can't do anything with him. Moran didn't listen to his sophistry at all, and lazily mocked. No matter how much you quibble, you can't change the facts. After finishing speaking, Moran continued to walk in the direction of Whitebeard. His avatar can't do anything, or it will be revealed. Before the main body completes the task, His current avatar cannot be exposed, so he will go to the last remaining ship in Whitebeard, and quietly be a handsome man. B************ D. Moran, you are not good, and your whole family is not good. Margao, who just came back to his senses behind him at this moment, yelled furiously. Aokiji saw Moran walking away slowly. He was also relieved. He was the only one of the 3 admirals left on the battlefield. Akainu was beaten unconscious. Kizaru was also cut off his arm. He really thought just now Moran is coming to kill him. Aokiji couldn't find an answer on Moran, just like probing Margao's tone, so he asked. Did that guy Margao make a deal with your Whitebeard pirates, so he is willing to help you save people? What? Margao looked at Aokiji with 205 eyes. He could ask this kind of question, not to mention that he didn't know, even if he really knew, as long as he had no problem in his mind, he wouldn't answer this kind of question. Thinking of this, Margao asked sarcastically, do you think I will answer your question? After Margao finished speaking, he turned into a phoenix, soared into the sky, and then swooped down quickly, stomping hard on Aokiji's head. Bump. Aokiji staggered a position, let Margao step on a lonesome, then raised his 2-meter-long legs, and swept towards Margao who had not yet gained a firm foothold. A red light flashed in Margao's eyes, and he felt it but couldn't react. He only had time to cross his hands in front of him, and Aokiji's long legs had swept over. Boom. Rumbling. Margao was directly hit, and was drawn out more than 10 meters away on the ice. A deep ditch more than 10 meters long and 10 meters wide was drawn on the ground. Asking for flowers. After Margao stood up, a cloud of blue flames radiated from his body, and the wounds on his body instantly recovered. Immediately afterwards, they rushed towards Aokiji again, and Aokiji also came up to meet them. The two collided quickly again and started a fist-to-body fight. Bang bang bang. The two fought each other on the ice. Margao's injury healed instantly, while Aokiji's body was smashed to pieces again and reassembled again and again. At this time, Moran finally came to Whitebeard's boat. Seeing Whitebeard standing on the bow as usual, Moran was a little upset and said, "Hey. This is saving your son, you old guy doesn't even plan to move, is it?" Whitebeard didn't answer Moran's words, but looked at him suspiciously and asked, "Are you sure it's that kid Moran?" Search. After Moran jumped onto the boat, he lazily explained, "I am just a clone now, the main body has other things to do." Whitebeard kept looking at Moran from the sidelines, and said in admiration, "Your ability is really pervert. If you didn't know that you have the ability to clone, and your aura is a bit strange, even I wouldn't be able to detect it." Moran rolled his eyes and said, "If Garp or Sengoku wants to attack later, you go up and fight for a while, my clone can't withstand the attacks of the two of them." Gu la 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 la. It's okay for the two of them to go together, but why did your body go? Whitebeard readily agreed, and then asked curiously. Whitebeard would not say this kind of thing, so Moran said directly, "The main body is in the rear of Marineford at this time. I am going to kill a person. In order to prevent being discovered by Marine and make them take precautions, I will leave 10 clones here." Akainu. Hearing that Moran was going to kill someone, a name popped up in Whitebeard's mind, and he didn't ask any more. As long as he knew this kind of thing in his heart, it would be boring to ask. Chapter 188. Akainu finally gets the lunch box. Behind Naval Headquarters Marineford, inside the infirmary, Akainu was wrapped up like a mummy and still in a coma. "Doctor. Kizaru Admiral's arm has been connected, but it is still not possible to use this arm for a short time, otherwise it will leave serious sequelae." Kizaru raised his arm to clench his fist, but his arm was only shaking, and he failed to clench his fist. Kizaru looked at the doctor and asked, "If you let it recover slowly, can it return to the previous state?" "Doctor. Kizaru Admiral's connected arm, even if it recovers well, it is impossible to have no sequelae at all. There is no problem in daily life, but the combat effectiveness may decline a bit." "I see." After Kizaru finished speaking, his face was gloomy. He stood up and walked outside, came to the door of the infirmary, looked in the direction of the port, and directly turned into a golden beam of light soaring into the sky. He can't stay here for too long. The front line is still fighting in full swing. Now is not the time to rest. At this time, a tall man was slowly approaching the infirmary. He was wearing a white suit vest, a dark blue shirt, and a 21 Marine Justice coat, with a belt on his forehead. A green blindfold. Seeing a golden beam of light across the sky, the man just raised his head and glanced at it, then continued walking towards the infirmary. There was no one in the surrounding streets, and the civilians or Marine family members who lived here had all been moved away. At this moment, there were only doctors and 2 trembling deserters leaning against the wall tremblingly. The people on the entire island were under the observation haki of this man. He didn't care about the 2 deserters, but continued to rush to the infirmary. Finally he walked to the infirmary where Akainu was, opened the door and walked in. Guggy. Hearing the sound of the door opening, the doctor looked up and saw a tall man. After seeing the person clearly, he quickly stood up and asked, "Aokiji Admiral, why are you here? Where are you injured?" People who come here at this time only have some serious injuries, or special injuries that will affect their future strength, such as Kizaru's severed limbs. General injuries can be treated in the square, so this place is very deserted now. Moran turned into Aokiji, who just glanced at the doctor and asked with a languid expression, "Where is Akainu Admiral now? How is his injury now?" That's right, this Aokiji was changed by Moran. He not only came to kill Akainu, but also framed Aokiji. Although this idea is full of loopholes, it should also give Marine a headache for a while. The doctor glanced at Moran with a strange expression, but pointed to a ward and replied, Akainu Admiral is in here. He hasn't recovered yet, but he is out of danger. The doctor still had a strange look on his face, and thought to himself, strange. When did Aokiji Admiral and Akainu Admiral get along so well? The Marineford Port War is still going on, but there is still time to come and visit Tiantianxiang. Moran. Take me to see him. It's Aokiji Admiral. Guggy. The doctor walked over to the door of the ward, and after slowly pushing it open, he turned around and before he could speak, a hand knife struck him on the neck. Bump. Boom. The doctor couldn't even react, so he was knocked unconscious by Moran with a hand knife, and he was at the door of the ward. Moran walked into the ward slowly, and saw Akainu lying on the bed, wrapped up like a mummy, still not waking up from such a big commotion outside, probably because he had too much physical strength recently. Crack. A knife appeared in Moran's hand, and when he walked over, he raised the knife and dropped it. With a click, blood stained the sheets on the hospital bed, and Akainu died directly in his sleep. Blood trickled down the bedsheets and fell on the ground. Akainu probably would not have thought that he would die in such an aggrieved way. If he knew, he would rather die on the battlefield. Moran looked at the spot for a while, and after confirming that this guy was really dead, he turned around and walked out of the infirmary. After checking around for no one, Moran Sharingan turned around, and a Uzumaki appeared in front of him. Moran stepped directly into the Uzumaki and disappeared without a trace. When Moran reappeared, he had come to a dark corner of the square, turned into an ordinary marine soldier, and blended directly into the crowd and slowly approached the execution platform. Bang, bang, bang. At this time, under the execution platform, Rayleigh and Sengoku were fighting, and the sound of various collisions was heard endlessly, and the fight was in full swing. Instead, Garp fought Whitebeard on the ice. Two admirals led a group of vice admirals to prevent the captains from going to the square. Luffy. Ace, I'm here to save you. After Sengoku was dragged by Rayleigh, Luffy made it all the way, and when he finally climbed to the execution platform, a golden beam flashed across the sky. Call out. A ball of golden light landed on the execution platform, slowly gathered into Kizaru's appearance, and said with his mouth crooked as always, it's so scary. Straw Hat Kid Luffy. Kizaru. Luffy. Run away. 060 Ace saw Luffy come here to save him, and before he could be happy, he saw Kizaru flying over, and shouted anxiously. Luffy said with a firm face, I haven't rescued you yet, I will definitely not run away. Have you ever been kicked by the speed of light? After Kizaru finished speaking, he raised his 2-meter-long legs, a golden light emerged from the soles of his feet, and swept towards Luffy with a whip. Bump. Because the speed was too fast, Luffy couldn't react at all. He was kicked and flew upside down, and landed on the square. A big hole was smashed into the ground, and a large cloud of dust was thrown up. Boom. Rumbling. Cough. Cough. Luffy coughed and crawled. After standing up, he looked at the execution platform hundreds of meters away. Even with his carefree personality, his face darkened. He finally rushed to the execution platform. Before liberation. Luffy. Ace. Moran, who had already quietly arrived under the execution platform, looked at Luffy who was yelling hundreds of meters away, and suddenly complained speechlessly, the strength is not very good, but the voice is too loud. If it is useful to shout, do you want strength to be a bird? Chapter 189. Ace is kicked out of the square by Moran. Luffy. Ace. Moran glanced at Luffy and rushed over again, yelling, not thinking about these things anymore, clenched his fists to cover Hawkeye, and directly hammered on the iron frame of the execution platform. Bump. Crack. Oops. The scaffold is going to collapse. Why did the good execution platform collapse? Don't think about it. Get out of here quickly, or you will be crushed under the execution platform. Run away. The execution platform slowly fell towards the square, and the marine underneath was running away, but Moran did not escape, and stood under the execution platform, waiting for the execution platform to collapse. Kizaru on the execution platform was just about to grab Ace and leave here, but Moran's clone was one step faster than him, grabbing Ace first and jumping down in the direction of the grass below. Call out. When Kizaru saw Moran taking Ace away, he had no intention of chasing after him, and turned into a golden beam, soaring into the sky and leaving the execution platform. Boom. Rumble. The execution platform collapsed suddenly, kicking up a large cloud of dust. Moran took the opportunity to put away his avatar, and his 957 quickly changed back to its original appearance, without anyone noticing. When the dust dissipated and everything returned to calm, Moran looked at Ace, who was lying on the ground with his head buried in the ground, and laughed and said, Did Ace Marine not give you food? You're already eating. All. Bah, bah, bah. Because both hands were handcuffed, Ace freely landed on his face and ate his mouthful of stones. He couldn't even get up by himself, so he turned over and lay on the ground, spitting hard with stones and mud in his mouth. Ace looked at Moran with fire in his eyes and asked, Moran, you be asterisk 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 D, did you do it on purpose? It turned out that when Moran controlled the avatar to grab Ace, the guy was wearing a pair of pants. In desperation, Moran grabbed her by the hair and jumped off the execution platform. As a result, Ace landed on his face first, allowing him to eat the king for the first time in his life. But how could he admit such a thing? Moran pretended to be innocent and asked back, Hey, hey. Ace, I saved you with good intentions, is that how you talk to your savior? I'm not angry. Not angry. It's not worth the trouble to be angry with this B asterisk 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 D. Ace said silently 3 times in his heart before gradually regaining his composure. After Ace regained his composure, he said with a speechless face, "You are still as shameless as ever, and your personality is just as bad." Moran looked at Ace who was cursing, and suddenly showed a smirk on his face and said, "Since you said that I have a bad personality, then I will show you what a bad personality is. Hey, what do you want?" Seeing Moran smile, Ace suddenly remembered the day when Sabayati Archipelago was beaten, and screamed in horror. Moran didn't answer him, but after glancing at Luffy's direction, he kicked Ace's waist with his wheel. Bump. Moran, you be *********D. Ace was kicked like a soccer ball and flew out quickly, cursing and hitting Luffy in the air. Boom. Rumbling. Luffy was knocked out while still in a daze, and flew upside down with Ace far, far away. Bang, bang. The two were kicked directly to the edge of the square, fell to the frozen sea, and finally both stopped. Ah, why am I here? Luffy finally stopped, looked at the white ice around him, and muttered to himself with a bewildered expression. Ace. B************ D Luffy, get off me now. Luffy heard this and looked down, only then did he realize that he was sitting on a person. I'm sorry. Before CBCG could react, Luffy repeatedly apologized to the people under him. Ah, Ace. It's really you. Luffy, who finally came to his senses, hugged Ace's neck with wide eyes, and kept strangling. Ace, who was strangled and rolled his eyes, directly pushed Luffy away and said, "Luffy, let's get out of here first, let's talk about something." It is good. After the two brothers Ace and Luffy stood up, they spread their feet and ran to the periphery of the bay. Moran scanned the surrounding area, only himself and Rayleigh were left in the square, and the others were all Marines. He thought to himself, the Whitebeard pirates are really not good, I have been fighting here for so long they haven't rushed to the square yet. Seeing that Ace was rescued, Sengoku punched out a shock wave, sending Rayleigh flying backwards. Boom. Boom. Rayleigh was thrown upside down and hit the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. When the dust dispersed, Rayleigh was no longer there. Rayleigh saw that Ace had been rescued, so he didn't want to fight anymore, and sneaked away with the help of dust to block his vision while the dust was still there. Alphad Moran. Sengoku no longer cared about Rayleigh, but roared at Moran, and rushed towards Moran directly, and came to the sky above Moran in a few flashes. Go to hell. Moran watched as Sengoku turned into a Buddha form, and swooped down with a twist of the sky, with golden energy in his hand, and he punched down violently with a shock wave. Moran didn't mean to go up to confront him head-on, but Sharingan turned around, showing a smirk, and sarcastically said to Sengoku, "Martial mentally handicapped, what do you think you can do to me? Want to kill me? Can you do it?" Big Buddha shockwave. Boom. Rumbling. A golden shock wave blasted down, and the surroundings of Moran instantly collapsed, and a small golden mushroom cloud appeared, and circles of air waves spread out in all directions like a typhoon. 1 second before the shock wave came down, Moran went straight into the Kamui space, making Sengoku's shock wave blast a lonely one. When the dust dissipated, Moran was no longer on the spot, leaving only a deep pit blasted out by the shock wave. Sengoku fell to the ground with an ugly face, and slowly walked up to several signal soldiers and asked, "Why haven't the soldiers retreated until now? The surrounding wall hasn't been raised yet. The order has been issued for so long, and at this time, half of the Marine soldiers are still fighting on the ice at the mouth of the bay, and they have not retreated, and the surrounding wall has not been raised for a long time. If there had been a surrounding wall just now, Ace would not have been kicked out of the square in an instant, leaving him no chance to stop him." Chapter 190. Whitebeard v Garp. Seeing Sengoku get angry, a Marine soldier came out tremblingly and reported, "Report to the Marshal, because the ice at Aokiji Admiral at the mouth of the bay is too thick, so the surrounding wall cannot rise, so." A-hole. Before the soldiers finished their report, Sengoku walked towards the mouth of the bay cursing. The Fire Fist Ace had already been rescued, and it was meaningless to raise the surrounding wall now. Because the surrounding wall is only a half-moon shape, it can only prevent them from rushing to the square, but it cannot prevent them from escaping. Kizaru stood on the edge of the square with one hand on his chest, and he didn't join the fight. Seeing Sengoku approaching, he cocked his mouth and said, "Marshal Sengoku seems to have lost the war." Sengoku looked around the battlefield, but did not pick up this topic, but watched 860, and told Kizaru, "Go and stop the Whitebeard pirates, keep as many as you can." He also knows the current situation. It is basically impossible to keep all the members of the Whitebeard pirates in Marineford, but Sengoku can't let them leave Marineford so easily. It's so scary. These guys are all as strong as monsters. Call out. Kizaru pretended to sigh, and turned into a golden light beam that soared into the sky and flew directly towards the entrance and exit of the bay. Everyone listens to the order and joins the battle with me. Duck duck. Ho 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 ho. Sengoku rushed down from the square in the first place, followed by all the Marine soldiers on the square, and rushed down the square aggressively to join the battlefield. The 100 meters around Whitebeard and Garp was empty, and the sound of various collisions and explosions could be heard endlessly, and the surrounding ice was riddled with holes. Bang bang bang. Whitebeard, who was colliding with Garp, also saw Ace running out at this time, and slashed at Garp fiercely with all his strength. Boom. Rumbling. Garp didn't expect Whitebeard to increase his strength suddenly, and he was directly cut on the ice surface for hundreds of meters before stopping, and the ice surface was drawn into a long and deep groove. After Whitebeard beat Garp back, he shouted, "Our goal has been achieved, listen to the Whitebeard pirates," and all members began to retreat. Is it finally rescued? Father ordered the retreat. Ace is rescued, let's withdraw. The pirates of the Whitebeard pirates began to retreat from the mouth of the bay like a tide, and ran outside the mouth of the bay, yelling reminders as they ran, lest no one miss the order. Bump. When Marco heard what Whitebeard said, he pushed Aokiji away, turned into a phoenix and flapped its wings soaring into the sky, and began to cover the retreat of others. At this time, Moran has come to the Whitebeard pirates, one of the remaining ships, sitting on the bow and watching the battlefield. When he heard Whitebeard's words, he knew the war was almost over. Moran thought of the fighting madmen on the ship, and thought secretly, those fighting madmen on the ship are probably still waiting for his order to join the battle. It seems that there is no chance for him to go there for no reason. Shall first fight with Marine. At this time, Moran saw Sengoku chasing after him, and said to Whitebeard who was not far away, Whitebeard, it seems that it is not so easy for you to leave here safely. Gu la 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 la. Because Ace was rescued, Whitebeard said in high spirits, lousy is Whitebeard, if lousy wants to leave, no one can stop him. Moran looked at the old guy speechlessly, if it wasn't for me standing in front of you, now you, an old guy, don't know how many holes have been opened, what's there to worry about? Whitebeard, you can stay here for the old man today. Just as Whitebeard froze for a while, Garp swung his casserole-sized fist and swooped down to punch Whitebeard. Whitebeard clenched his fist without hesitation, a ball of white energy emerged from his fist, and he also punched Garp with the same fist. Boom. Rumbling. The two Whitebeard Garp collided together, and the sky collapsed instantly. The ice surface, which was already riddled with holes, was cracked into bottomless pits. The air waves generated by the collision were like typhoons, and everyone around them felt lifeless pain. Bump. After the two collided and stood in a stalemate for a while, they were both retreated by the recoil, and then quickly collided together, launching a fist-to-flesh battle. Bang 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 bang. Whitebeard and Garp didn't change their faces. You punched each other, and there were all kinds of bangs, and the sound spread far and far away. Moran felt pain just looking at it, but these two old guys were able to stand there, fighting each other without changing their expressions, with no intention of stopping at all. Boom. Rumbling. At this moment, an explosion sounded suddenly. Moran turned his head when he heard the movement, and found that it was the Sengoku shock wave blasted out, and the target was Margao. Marl stood up from the deep pit with blood on his mouth, looked at Sengoku with an ugly face, and said to Ace and others behind him, Ace, you go first, I will stay and finish. Ace refused without thinking. I can't leave you alone, if you want to run, let's run together. Sengoku walked over slowly and said, none of you want to leave Marineford today, you Whitebeard pirates, just stay here for me today. Boom. After Sengoku finished speaking, he soared into the sky, and the ice surface was stepped out of a deep pit, and he swooped down, and slapped Margao and others with a shock wave. Big Buddha shockwave. Great Flame Precept Emperor Yan. At this time, Ace's handcuffs have been removed, several circles of huge spiral flames appeared around Ace, and after a while, Ace dragged 10 sun-like fireballs in his hand and threw them towards Sengoku in the air. Bump. The fireball 3.5 collided with the shock wave, and after a moment of stalemate, the fireball was directly pierced by the shock wave and continued to blast down towards Ace and the others. Margot turned into a phoenix form, soaring into the sky with bird claws and grabbing Sengoku's fallen Buddha's palm, trying to stop the shock wave's attack. Boom. Rumbling. However, Margao still overestimated himself, and saw that he vomited blood and fell on the ice. The shock wave fell on the ice and exploded, a small golden mushroom cloud appeared fly around. Whitebeard glanced in Margao's direction, secretly anxious but helpless, he was entangled by Garp and couldn't get away at all. Whitebeard looked at Moran who was watching the show on the boat and said, Moran boy Ace hasn't left Marineford yet, it's not a rescue. Chapter 191. Save Marco, the collision of Moran and Sengoku. Moran, who was sitting on the bow of the boat watching the play, was enjoying watching it, but when he heard what Whitebeard said, his face darkened immediately. But after a while, Moran regained his composure, and lazily said, I think it's better for you Whitebeard pirates to die in Marineford. Moran's voice was not loud, but Whitebeard could hear it clearly. Whitebeard originally wanted to trade the land, so he asked Moran to help, but he didn't expect this guy to take any losses. Whitebeard said a little helplessly, let them leave Marineford safely, I, Whitebeard, owe you a favor. Whitebeard thought that Moran would be willing to sell, but he still didn't know Moran well enough. Sure enough, Moran said with disdain on his face, how much is your favor from Whitebeard? Then he added, 10 billion Baileys, there is no such thing as 10 billion Baileys, you guys from the Whitebeard pirates, do you care if you live or die? Whitebeard's complexion was a little ugly when he heard the money was asked for, he himself was so poor, how could there be so much money for this B***************************** D? Moran didn't really want to ask this poor old guy for money, he also knew that this old guy had no money, but his sons had money. He didn't believe that there were so many people in the Whitebeard pirates, and they still couldn't come up with 10 billion Baileys. Sure enough, there was no need for Whitebeard to say anything. After several captains who had retreated gathered together to discuss for a while, Vista walked towards Moran. Vista didn't talk nonsense, and said straight to the point. Dragon Emperor Moran asks you to save Margao and the others. We are willing to pay 10 billion Baileys. These captains can fight against Admiral, but Sengoku is a top powerhouse, and they can't stand up to two admirals. Hearing that Moran was rich, he immediately felt relieved, and Vista said with a smile, Vista, you captains, are much more cheerful than your so-so father. Beasta explained with a helpless face. Dad's money has been sent back to his hometown, he has no money, and he didn't really deduct it. Then he added in a hurry. Don't talk about this, Margao and the others are about to lose their hold, you'd better save people first. Before Moran stood up and left, he still didn't forget to complain. In my eyes, no money is equal to deduction, and Whitebeard is an iron CK with no money. After speaking, the Sharingan turned on, and Moran slowly disappeared in place. Seeing Moran who disappeared without a trace in front of him, Vista secretly said with emotion, strong strength is really strong, but the mouth is also really poisonous. At this time, Margao and the others were caught in a dilemma by Sengoku and Aokiji. Sengoku slowly approached and said, there is an old man here, none of you Whitebeard pirates can escape today, don't make unnecessary resistance, you can still go to Impel down to survive, otherwise today will be the death day of your Whitebeard pirates. Quote. Anyone can say big words. If you have the ability, you will kill us all. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Margao said very stubbornly, rolling his dead fish eyes. Sengoku. In that case, the old man will fulfill you. Big Buddha shockwave. Sengoku in the form of a giant Buddha, the golden light on his body became more and more intense, a group of golden light gathered on his fist, and he punched Margao fiercely. It was impossible for Margao to sit still, and just when he was about to rush up to touch Sengoku, a Uzumaki suddenly appeared in front of him, and a figure slowly walked out. Moran, are you here to save us? Luffy immediately recognized the figure when he saw it, and exclaimed happily. Moran didn't speak. A black knife appeared in his hand, the red light in his eyes became stronger and stronger, the two-color hockey covered the black knife, and slashed at Sengoku fiercely. Bump. Boom. Boom. Moran's slash and Sengoku's shock wave collided a few meters apart and stalemate for a while, then there was a loud bang, and a wave of black and gold rushed out centered on the two of them. The surrounding marines were sent flying backwards by the shock wave, kicking up a large cloud of dust, and the two people who collided inside could not be seen clearly. When everything returned to calm, Sengoku looked at Moran who was standing in front of him, and asked with an ugly face, what the hell are you doing, Moran? Moran smiled and said to Sengoku, I'm sorry to be mentally handicapped Marshal, life is not easy and I need to earn money to support my family. Then without looking back, he said to the people behind him, hurry up and get out, don't hinder me here, or I will hold you together. You be ******** Moran, don't die. Ace looked at Moran who blocked Sengoku, his face was full of worry, but he didn't have a good word. Thank you, Moran, for coming to save us, thank you very much. Although Luffy is careless, but Moran came to save them, and he knows to be grateful. Thank you, Dragon Emperor Moran. After Margao thanked him, he said to the people beside him, let's leave quickly, staying here will only become a burden to him. Without Sengoku, only Aokiji was left, and Margao and the others could not be stopped at all. Margao grabbed Ace and Luffy, turned into a phoenix and soared into the sky, and successfully got rid of Aokiji. Boom. Rumbling. Flying in the air, Ace and the others heard the explosion sound from behind, which was obviously the explosion caused by the collision between Mord and Sengoku. Ace worried. Is Moran going to be okay? Luffy said with admiration on his face. That guy Moran is so strong, how could something happen to him, that Afro must not be able to beat him. Margao also said, from Zhao Qian's, that guy should be a space-type ability user. If he wants to run, even the recognized fastest yellow ape may not be able to catch up with him. Exclamation mark quote. After speaking, he glanced behind him and saw Aokiji's relentless pursuit, and continued, instead of worrying about that guy, you should worry about ourselves. Hearing this, Luffy turned his head to look, his expression changed drastically, and he shouted, that guy with ice is catching up again, Birdman, hurry up. Margao grabbed the two of them and flew in the air. When he heard Luffy's words, he rolled his eyes wildly and said angrily, my name is Margao, not Birdman. How many times do I need to say you be ******** D before I can remember? Seeing that the two were about to fight, Ace quickly apologized for Luffy. I'm sorry Margo, this guy Luffy is like this, he can't always remember other people's names. Chapter 192, Margo is a mount. Margo said nonchalantly. Ace, don't worry, I won't be angry with a heartless person. Margo got along with Luffy for a while just now, and he also knew how heartless this guy is, so he wasn't really angry, he just felt speechless. Hearing Margao's words, Luffy immediately became unhappy, twisted his body wildly and said, I'm not short-sighted, you bird is short-sighted. Hey, Luffy, don't move around, or you will fall and no one will be able to save you. Ace saw Luffy twist and turn, and Margao couldn't catch it, so he was startled and urged. At this time, there are only 3 pirates around them below them, looking down, there is a dark area full of marines, if they fall, there will be no life or death. The others retreated successfully, and the 3 of them were blocked by Aokiji, so they had no time to retreat, otherwise they would not have been rescued by Moran. Boom. Boom. Moran and Sengoku collided again, and both of them were thrown backwards by the recoil. The surrounding ice surface was riddled with holes, and deep cracks appeared on the ice surface. After Sengoku flew upside down, he didn't rush up again like before, but looked at Moran with an ugly face and asked, you are a mercenary B********** D who is willing to help the Whitebeard pirates, what kind of benefits did they give you? Then he said, as long as you can keep all the members of the Whitebeard pirates here, we Marine will pay double the price of the Whitebeard pirates. Moran said unmoved. If you said this before the war started, we would still have the possibility to cooperate, but now it's impossible. Akainu was killed by himself. Although he used the identity of Aokiji at the time, there were too many flaws. How could Aokiji go to the rear to kill people when he was always on the battlefield? He used the identity of Aokiji to kill people, just to disgust Marine. Aokiji will not be affected, at most there will be some rumors. Moran looked at Sengoku with his head down, wondering what he was thinking, and asked, Marshal mentally handicapped, are you still going to fight? If not, I'll slip away. Sengoku didn't bother to talk to this guy. He just wanted to vent his anger when he fought with Moran. After these few fights, he also understood that this guy can not only fly, but also has the ability to travel through space. With their marine ability, he can't catch him at all. Live this B*********************. D. Goodbye. Seeing that Sengoku has been silent, Moran directly opened Mangekyo Sharingan, and a Uzumaki appeared beside him, slowly sucking him in. Behind the phoenix that Margao turned into, a Uzumaki suddenly appeared. Moran jumped out from it, landed on Margao's back and sat down directly. Margao felt the sinking of his back, turned his head to look behind him, and found that it was Moda. He breathed a sigh of relief and said in a bad mood, it's not like you can't fly, why are you sitting on me? Moran lazily said to Kaido, I was seriously injured to save you, and I couldn't fly by myself. Are you swollen for me as a mount? I'm just asking you, are you swollen? Margao looked at this shameless guy, and secretly complained in his heart. The clothes are all neat and tidy, and there is no injury on the outside. You probably won't believe even yourself when you say this. Moran, are you back? That's great. Hearing Moran came back, Luffy writhed again and shouted happily. D Luffy, talk as you say, but don't move. Ace looked at the restless brother from the side, and yelled in fear. Ha 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 ha, I'm sorry. Although Luffy was apologizing, there was no apology on his face, and he was still laughing heartlessly. After that, no one was talking, and Margao was flying with 3 people carrying a heavy load. Because it was too heavy to carry the 3 people, he flew up and down crookedly, as if he might fall down at any time. Look, Margao and the others are back. And Ace is back. It's great to be surrounded by Marines and escape safely. Margao just flew over the Whitebeard pirate ship, and the pirates below saw them all talking. Search. Moran jumped directly from a height of 100 meters, landed on the boat of the Whitebeard pirates, and returned to his original position to sit and watch the show. Marco took Ace Luffy and the other 2 to the back to help break out of the siege. They are still surrounded by Marine, and there are many warships on the periphery that are preventing them from leaving Marineford. Only when they return to New World can they be truly escaped. Ask for flowers. Boo boo boo, boo boo. At this time, the phone bug in Moran's arm suddenly rang, and Moran took it out and connected it directly. Acede's eager voice came from the phone bug and asked, when will the people on our side, Moran, be able to go in? Moran said with a little embarrassment. Well, you can come in now, but the war here is almost over. Acedes muttered in great disappointment. How could it end so soon? We haven't participated in the battle yet. Moran quickly comforted him. It's okay, Acedes. From now on, there will be more battles in New World, but one less battle. In fact, you don't have to worry too much about it. Really, truer than pearls. Acedes, who was comforted by Moran for a while, finally regained his mood, and then asked, since the battle is over, shall we go in? Moran thought for a while before saying, come and pick me up, after the war is over, let's go back together. Okay, we'll pick you up right away. After Acedes hung up the phone, he turned around and said helplessly, Moran said the war is almost over, let's go in and pick him up. Van Oka was the first to stand up and complain. The captain ran off to be cool by himself again, leaving us all here, isn't this too inhuman? Hearing this, Trafalgar Law glanced at Van Oka and reminded, you better stop shouting, if you let the captain know, you will be rewarded. Van Oka said with a serious face, don't say that the captain is not here now, even if the captain is here, I still dare to say it in front of him. Trafalgar Law complained speechlessly, you really dare to say it, but you are taught so badly every time, what is there to be ashamed of? Van Oka shouted angrily, I'm letting the captain know, do you understand? Quote. Exclamation mark quote. What responded to him was the disdainful voice of the crowd. Chapter 193, The Arrival of the Red Hair Pirates. Boom, boom. Whitebeard and Garp continued to collide, and the 2 old guys exchanged punch after punch as if they were tireless. I only know about head-to-head confrontation, and I can't even watch Moran watching the show, so it has become like this now. Whitebeard hit him 3-way. Hey, you're wrong. You hit his thigh for a bird. Aim for his 3-way. Garp hit him PG. Hey yes, hit him PG. Moran was sitting on the bow of the boat, and at first he was just watching the show, but later he found out that these 2 guys only knew about all kinds of head-to-head collisions, without any technical content, so he started to point fingers. Bump. Whitebeard and Garp collided again, and the 2 separated in a tacit understanding. Instead of continuing to rush towards each other, they both turned their heads to look at Moran, both gnashing their teeth. Moran still asked 21 with a clueless expression. Hey, you 2 keep fighting. What are you looking at me for? Shut up. The 2 yelled in unison. Moran asked with a blank face, what happened? Whitebeard gritted his teeth and said, you still have the face to ask why. You've been beeping, how can we fight? Only then did Moran understand, touched his nose in embarrassment and said, "Then you go on, I promise not to talk again, is that okay?" Whitebeard and Garp didn't continue to fight, but stared at Moran tightly, staring at him without saying a word, making Cao Lan's body covered in goosebumps. Just when the atmosphere here suddenly became strange, Moran's eyes suddenly flashed red, and he said to himself, "Is this shitstirrer still here? He really is everywhere. That ship, hey, why did those guys come here? The 5 emperors of the New World, why did they appear here? It's Redhead Shanks. The situation of our marine is getting worse. Everyone from the Red Hair Pirates, everyone is here." The Red Force came down one after another, and was slowly walking towards Whitebeard. A group of Marines were talking in fear. Obviously, their own Marines don't want to continue fighting, because they can't see the hope of victory. Moran's observation Hawkeye has been covering the entire Marineford, so he discovered the arrival of the Red Hair before Marine. He already knew that the shit-stirring Redhead was going to meddle in his own business again, but he didn't want to. Anyway, the protagonist of the war was not his Wanjian pirates. After Shanks came not far from Whitebeard, he looked at a group of trembling Marines and said, "I'm here to end this war." How could it be possible? The contest between Wowang Hongfa and Kaido in New World seems like yesterday. And he himself came here. Shanks stepped forward step by step and said, "If you continue to fight like this, you will only participate in the losses of the 2 armies without limit, if that guy hasn't made enough trouble." Shanks stopped and drew his knife, then said, "Come on. Let's do it." The whole battlefield became strangely quiet. Marine's top management all looked at Shanks strangely, and the captains on Whitebeard's side also looked at him strangely. Puff. Ha 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 hiccup. After being quiet for a while, there was a burst of unscrupulous laughter, and everyone looked around after hearing the reputation, only to find that the person who laughed was Moran. Only then did Shanks find out that Moran was here too. Looking at Moran, who was smiling unscrupulously, he asked suspiciously, "So you're here too, Moran, but what are you waiting for?" Before Moran could speak, Beckman pushed Shanks and reminded, "Shanks is a bit weird on the battlefield, I think I know what he is laughing at." Shanks asked blankly, "What?" Beckman explained in a low voice, "I think they don't want to fight anymore, so let's stop them, it's like a joke." On the battlefield at this time, except for Garp who was still fighting Whitebeard, the other high-level Marines had already stopped fighting. Only a group of Marine soldiers were still chasing the Whitebeard pirates, but they didn't seem to have high fighting spirit. Although they came a little late, but as long as the war is not over, it is not too late. Shanks still wants to stop the war now. After Shanks rubbed his nose in embarrassment, he took 2 steps forward and said, "Everyone, I hope you can sell my face here and stop the war." Shanks, how much is your face? What was originally a very serious matter, was directly destroyed by Moran's words, and the atmosphere suddenly became strange. Shanks, who was a little embarrassed at first, turned around and yelled at Moran, "Can you be *********** stop tearing down my desk?" Shanks scanned around and found that Moran was alone, then said, "You are here alone now, with such a vicious mouth, aren't you afraid that we will beat you up?" Moran laughed and said, "Hit me if you have the ability. Go beat him up." Shanks was so angry that he wanted to bring someone up to FK Moran. 993 inches. It just so happens that I wanted to beat him up a long time ago, but I never had the chance. This time he's alone is the best chance. Moran really has a way of attracting hatred. The last time he met with red hair pirates, the red hair pirates were full of anger. No one on the red-haired boat would bother to beat him up, but Moran was always protected by a group of monsters. They have never had a chance. Seeing Moran alone this time, they all have an idea. Shanks just walked out a few steps, but Beckman did not follow, but slowly reminded from behind. With this guy's cautious personality, he can't come to such a dangerous place alone, so he will be beaten later. It might be us. The bodies of those rushing forward froze suddenly, thinking of the group of monsters on the Moran boat. A member of the red hair pirates said frightenedly, "Boss, I think beating people is wrong, let's not go." Seeing Shanks and the others stop, Moran sarcastically said, "Shanks, don't you want to beat me? Come and beat me." Moran thought secretly, "Anyway, those guys just want to fight, and they have no chance to participate in this war, so let's send them red hair pirates as compensation." Chapter 194. Red-haired Shanks who confessed to the end of the Summit War. Shanks froze on the spot when he stepped out, turned his head to look at Beckman and asked, "Are you sure this guy really didn't come alone?" Obviously Shanks didn't want to fight the monsters on Moran's ship. If the monsters were all around here, it wouldn't matter who beats who. In the eyes of the big forces on the sea, Moran is not as deterrent as the group of monsters on his ship. Beckman saw that Shanks still didn't want to give up, so he asked directly, "Have you ever seen this guy when there was no one around?" Shanks thought for a while, and said with a bit of lovelessness, "It seems that I have never seen this guy act alone, so we have no chance of revenge." Beckman replied blankly, "Revenge is not impossible. You can beat him up first while there is no one around him now, and then just wait for the beating on the spot." Seeing Shanks's bright eyes, the people on the red-haired boat directly stopped him and said, "Boss, it's not a good thing to hurt 1,000 enemies and 800. They don't really have any grudges, it's just that Moran is too much to beat. If it's because of this, they don't think it's worthwhile to vent their anger and get on their own. Shanks, are you still coming? Don't you dare to come. You are too cowardly." Shanks and the others were still analyzing where the people on Moran's boat were at 890. The voice came again and said. Beckman glanced at Moran, and said to Shanks who was gnashing his teeth, I was only 80% sure just now, and now I am 100% sure that his crew is nearby. Moran, here I come. Just as Shanks was gnashing his teeth and staring at Moran, a very pleasant lowly voice came down from the sky, and then he saw a little lowly swooping down with green energy all over his body, rushing down directly to Moran. Boom. Ouch. Because the tornado rushed down too fast, it didn't have time to stop its power, and it directly crashed into Moran's arms. Moran looked helplessly at the tornado hanging around his neck, rubbed his forehead and said, "Tornado, can you stop being so reckless?" Tornado raised his head and looked at Moran with tears in his eyes, with a little expression like, "If you say something to me, I will cry for you." Moran's heart softened in an instant, and it was not good to blame her, so he changed the subject and asked, "Didn't the others come with you?" Seeing that Moran didn't blame her, Tornado said happily, "They are still behind, the speed of the boat is too slow, so I came here first." Moran looked at the tornado that recovered in an instant, and secretly complained in his heart. Sure enough, the old saying is true, a woman's face is like the sky in June, and it changes as soon as it changes. Hey, the little girl in the arms of the Dragon Emperor Moran, who is she? She is so close to the Dragon Emperor Moran. That's one of the fighting members of the 10,000 Swords Pirates, the Trembling Tornado, who has fought against the 5 emperors several times, but they all ended in a tie. You don't know that. It's hard to believe that the frightening tornado in the legend is actually a little girl, and at such a young age, she can even tie with the 5 emperors. When a group of Marine soldiers saw the tornado approaching, they all whispered to each other, and there were exclamations from time to time. Beckman glanced at Shanks, and said triumphantly, "I knew this guy couldn't act alone, am I right?" Ha 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 ha. Shanks covered up his embarrassment with a smile, took back the step he had taken, and walked back as if nothing had happened, not forgetting to give himself a step down and said, "I just saw Moran, whom I haven't seen for a long time, and I want to go and have a chat with him. It's just a greeting." Cut. What responded to the red-haired Shanks was the disdainful voices of all the members of the Red Hair Pirates, all looking at him with a look of "I believe you." Moran saw Shanks stepping back and retracted his feet, and immediately mocked, "Chunks, aren't you going to beat me? So that's all you can do? That's it. CBBG, that's it. Ha 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 ha." Shanks laughed awkwardly for a while, and said, "Nonsense. When did I say I was going to beat you up? Don't blame me. Does Moran need me to beat them?" Tornado asked, blinking Kawaii's big eyes, looking at Moran. Moran glanced at Shanks, looked at them who had no fighting intentions, and directly gave up the idea of fighting them. Shanks who had no fighting intentions, it's meaningless to fight. Thinking of this, he said to Tornado, "Forget it. They're too cowardly, it's boring to fight. When our ship comes over, let's go straight away." Oh, after Tornado let out a groan, he stopped talking. Shanks was also relieved when he heard Moran's words. They came here to persuade, not fight. Shanks secretly sighed. I was confused by that guy Moran. Isn't that ship the ship of the 10,000 Swords Pirates? That's right. Probably all the members are here. The Red Hair Pirates came here to stop the war, so what is the purpose of the Wanjian Pirates coming here? A wise emperor came out and analyzed. Why do you care so much about him? Don't worry about the things above, but I guess today's war can't continue. I saw a dragon-headed pirate ship approaching slowly. Whether it was a pirate or a marine, there were a lot of discussions, some were shocked, and some were guessing that the Wanjian Pirates came here what? Moran saw that his ship had arrived, and looked at the quiet battlefield, looking at Beard and Sengoku. He asked, "Are you still fighting? If not, I'll go home and collect my clothes." Boom. Gu la 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 la. Whitebeard inserted Kong Yunchi into the ice, looked at Sengoku and laughed for a while, and then asked, "Sengoku, what do you say? Whether to continue or cease the war, we Whitebeard pirates will stay with you to the end." After being silent for a while, Sengoku slowly took a few steps forward and scanned the entire battlefield. All he saw was a group of Marine soldiers who had no fighting intentions. When Moran rescued Ace, he knew that Marine had lost the battle, but in order to save Marine's face, he chose to continue the pursuit. Sengoku secretly thought, it seems that continuing to pursue this decision will not only fail to save Marine's face, but will only make Marine's loss even worse. Seeing tens of thousands of eyes staring at him, Sengoku closed his eyes and shouted, "I declare the end of the war." Chapter 195. Sengoku learns of Akainu's death. Interesting for you. Selena Gomez posts powerful bikini then and now. 285. 74. 249. As Sengoku's words fell, all the tense people on the battlefield relaxed, some sat down on the ice directly, and some hugged their partners and burst into tears. The war is finally over. I survived. I finally made it to the end of the war. I can finally go home. Everyone was secretly glad that they finally stood at the end. When Whitebeard heard Sengoku's words, the stone hanging in his heart finally let go. He wanted to stop the war more than anyone else on the battlefield. Seeing his sons fall down in front of him, he felt extremely painful, but he couldn't show his cowardly side. He had to be tough to the end, otherwise his sons might just die more. He knows his own 653 situation better than anyone else. If there is no Moran's help today, he doesn't know if Ace can be rescued, but he will definitely die here. Thinking of this, Whitebeard looked at the corpses on the ice, closed his eyes and said, "Little ones, none of the people corpses that brought us can be left behind. We will bring them all back to New World." Quote. It's Dad. The members of the Whitebeard pirates carried all the pirates who died on the battlefield onto the boat, and watched the brothers who had a banquet together turn into cold corpses, and they all shed tears silently. Moran couldn't stand the oppressive atmosphere, and said directly to Tornado, Tornado, let's go back. There's nothing to see here anymore. Okay. Moran looked at Whitebeard and said, hey. Since the war is over, old man, I'll slip away first. See you in New World. Whitebeard was watching quietly at this time. One by one sons were carried on board, and they were enduring the grief of a white-haired man sending a black-haired man. There was no time to talk to him, as if he hadn't heard Moran's words, he just ignored him. Moran also knew that the old guy was not feeling well at this time, so he didn't talk nonsense. He wanted to talk about the land transaction and the 100 million Baileys, but depending on the situation, we can only talk about it at another time. This one is a bit unreasonable. Moran glanced at Sengoku's direction and saw that he was also gloomy, so he immediately gave up the idea of getting angry with him, and just greeted him. Since the war is over for the mentally handicapped marshal, I'll slip away first. Sengoku glared at him and yelled, get out. No one's stopping you. Moran wasn't angry either, and said hypocritically, don't be so angry. I'm just a junior, just saying hello to you before leaving out of politeness, lest you say I'm being polite. Sengoku stopped talking to this shameless guy, so as not to make himself angry, he chose to ignore Moran directly. Moran stopped talking after finishing speaking. Green energy emerged from his body, slowly floated up with a tornado, and flew towards his own boat. Pat. As soon as Moran landed on Bonnie, he was the first one to meet him anxiously and flipped through his clothes. He kept looking at him and asked, Moran big brother, you're back. Are you injured? Moran quickly grabbed her twitching hands, and quickly comforted her. Bonnie, don't worry, your Moran big brother is so strong, how could you get hurt? Really? Of course, instead of worrying about whether I'm injured, you might as well worry about whether I'm hungry or not. I haven't eaten all day. Moran finished speaking, pretending to be pitiful. Puff. After Blue Bonnie was successfully amused by Moran, he no longer worried, and said, I'll cook for you right now, Moran big brother, please wait for a while. Da. Blue Bonnie ran to the kitchen after speaking. Moran also heaved a sigh of relief, finally got this little girl out of the way, and will accept fewer girls in the future, otherwise it will be unbearable. At this time Robin stepped forward and asked, Captain, let's go directly to New World now, or where are we going? Moran said directly without thinking, let's go to Sabayati Archipelago first, we have something to do there, and we'll go back to New World after we finish. It's the captain. After seeing everyone busy, Moran secretly thought, Sabayati Archipelago must go, there is a girl waiting for him to conquer. Moran directly chooses to forget the unrealistic idea just now, how can a girl with no life do it? The people who received the order began to control the ship, and the ship of the Wanjian pirates began to sail slowly towards the Sabayati Archipelago. Boss, the Dragon Emperor Moran didn't even say hello to you when he left, but he only greeted the other two forces. You are too shameless. The red hair pirates saw the slowly sailing away ship, rants directly at Shanks. Boss, you should use less of your face in the future. Otherwise it's really worthless. Yeah, that's right. Everyone else nodded in sympathy. Ha. Shanks didn't care at all, he laughed and said, I don't belong to the red hair pirates alone, so I'm not the only one who is ashamed. Since you don't care, then I'm not here. Everyone in the red hair pirates looked at Shanks speechlessly, and secretly complained. It seems that it is not only the Dragon Emperor Moran who is shameless, their own captain is no less shameless than the Dragon Emperor Moran. Marshal Sengoku is bad. Marshal Sengoku is bad. On the marine side, a sweaty marine soldier ran all the way towards Sengoku, shouting as he ran. Who? Sengoku turned around suspiciously, looked at the sweaty and panting marine soldier in front of him, and asked, what happened? Report battle. Marshal Sengoku. Kai, he. Before the marine soldiers finished their report, Sengoku had an ominous premonition of 2.6. Could it be that something happened to Akainu? Akainu Admiral was killed in the infirmary. The marine soldier said after resting for a while. What did you say? Sengoku grabbed the marine soldier, lifted him up, stared at him with wide eyes, and asked, please tell me clearly, what's going on? The marine soldier was frightened and stammered. The doctor in the infirmary said, that it was Aokiji Admiral who killed Akainu Admiral. Hearing the news, Sengoku laughed angrily, pulled the marine soldier over, leaned forward and roared. Aokiji has been fighting on the battlefield all the time, you told me that Aokiji killed the person. Chapter 196. Sengoku on fire. I don't know what's going on, the doctor in the infirmary said it's none of my business. The marine soldier stuttered frightened by Sengoku's appearance nothing to say. Sengoku gritted his teeth, and there was an uncontrollable anger in his eyes, like an enraged lion. Bang. The surrounding marine soldiers began to fall one after another, all stunned by the conqueror's haki unconsciously released by Sengoku. Marshal Sengoku. Seeing this, Aokiji who was not far away quickly shouted, trying to wake up Sengoku who was out of control because of his anger. Sengoku came back to his senses and quickly put away the conqueror's haki. Fortunately, Aokiji reacted quickly enough. Otherwise, if it was a little later, many people might have to lie down again. Sengoku held back his anger and put down the marine soldier and said, take me to the infirmary to see what's going on. After the marine soldier was put down by Sengoku, he sat down on the ground with his feet limp, and when he stood up again, his feet were still trembling uncontrollably. It's Marshal Sengoku. After the marine soldier responded, he tremblingly led the way ahead, obviously not recovering from the fright. It's no wonder that Sengoku's aura is uncontrollable, because all the anger is pressing on him, and it's already considered powerful not to be stunned. I'll leave the finishing work on Aokiji to you and Kizaru. I'll take care of some things first. After Sengoku looked at Aokiji and ordered, he followed the marine soldiers in front and rushed towards the infirmary behind. Call out. Feeling Sengoku's momentum, he thought there was another fight. Kizaru rushed over with a dazed face, looked at Aokiji and asked, "What's going on?" Aokiji replied with a gloomy face, "Just now a soldier came to report that Akainu was killed, and that I killed Akainu. He was standing not far away just now. Others may not hear clearly, but with his strength, he can hear clearly. Hey, hey, hey. Don't joke, this kind of joke is not funny at all." Kizaru didn't believe it at first, but seeing Aokiji's face, his voice became smaller and smaller, and there was an ominous premonition in his heart. Undeterred, Kizaru asked again, "Are you serious?" Looking at the silent Aokiji, Kizaru's face gradually darkened. "One of the 3 admirals died, this matter is a bit big." Kizaru asked directly, "Is there anyone you suspect?" He didn't believe that Aokiji did it at all. Although the 3 admirals were a bit contradictory, they were all just different ideas, and they couldn't rise to the point of killing people at all. And Aokiji has been on the battlefield all the time, never left the battlefield at all, and has no time to kill people. Aokiji thought for a while before saying, "Although there is no evidence, only Alphad Moran has the ability and time to do this." Kizaru said to himself, "Duplicate." Kizaru also thought of the ability of Moran's clone, but he didn't know if he could transform into someone else's appearance. On Whitebeard's side at this time, the members of the Whitebeard pirates had already moved everyone onto the ship, and were quietly waiting for orders. Margot walked up to Whitebeard and asked, "All of Papa's members have been moved onto the boat. Shall we go now?" After Whitebeard glanced at the battlefield, he said to Margot, "Let's go straight back to New World." After Whitebeard said something to Margot, he boarded the boat and walked into the room. His back, which was originally straight, was slightly curved at this time, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. Margot watched his father walk through the room. He also knew that his father was feeling uncomfortable at this time, but he didn't know how to comfort him. After Marco remained silent for a while, he went to organize Gen, and the pirate ships left Marineford slowly one by one. Many of their ships were sunk. Although they won this battle, the Whitebeard pirates also suffered heavy losses. At this time, Sengoku has come to the infirmary, looking at the lifeless Akainu on the hospital bed, and the dried bloodline on the ground. Sengoku looked at the doctor with a calm face and asked, "Tell me, what's going on?" If someone who is familiar with Sengoku is here, he will understand that Sengoku at this time looks like Shisui, but actually he is angry. Not long after Kizaru Admiral left in the afternoon, Aokiji Admiral came in and said he wanted to visit Akainu Admiral, but after I opened the door, he knocked me out, and I don't know what happened afterwards. Doctor, he didn't dare to hide anything, and told everything he knew. Sengoku thought that when Kizaru went out, Aokiji was still fighting on the battlefield, so it was impossible to come here, so he asked directly. "Are you sure that this Aokiji came in not long after Kizaru left?" "Doctor. Very sure, it's about the front and rear feet." After listening to the doctor's words, Sengoku walked out of the infirmary without saying a word, and walked towards the dilapidated naval headquarters building. While walking, he ordered to the marine soldiers next to him, "Send the order and call an emergency meeting immediately. Rear Admiral, all officers above rank must be present." "Yes, I'll do it right away." After half an hour, in the conference room of naval headquarters building, a marine was standing behind Sengoku, explaining the information to the people in the conference room, and it took a long time before he finished talking about Akainu. When Marine finished speaking, Sengoku took over the topic and said, "You all know the situation, let's talk about your own opinions and guesses." Crane Vice Admiral was the first to analyze and said, "According to the time when Akainu was killed, Aokiji was fighting with Margao. We all saw it, so his suspicion can be ruled out directly, and we won't waste time on him." Bar. Agree. Crane Vice Admiral looked at the people in the meeting room and nodded before continuing to analyze. Since Aokiji didn't kill him, the most suspect is Alphad Moran. A Vice Admiral asked suspiciously. At that time, he and his avatar were clearly on the execution platform and sitting on the Whitebeard pirate ship. I have always been aware of his movements, so I remember very clearly. Crane Vice Admiral explained. I think he can create more than one avatar, and his avatar and his main body can still be distinguished. Chapter 197. Crane Vice Admiral guess Moran's ability. How can you tell the difference? The people in the meeting room all looked confused and looked at he Vice Admiral one after another. It was real and exactly the same, and they couldn't tell the difference at all. Crane Vice Admiral. I don't know if you have noticed that the execution platform is a clone. You know this without further ado, and this clone has not moved since sitting on the execution platform, and when Akainu was killed, Moran, what are you doing? Boom. A Vice Admiral slapped the table, and almost blurted out, sit on the boat of the Whitebeard pirates. Everyone carefully recalled that Moran's avatar on the execution platform hadn't moved at all, and when Akainu was killed, this guy ran to sit on the Whitebeard pirates' boat to watch the fun, which is very suspicious. Crane Vice Admiral then speculated. I think Alphad Moran's clone ability should have certain limitations. For example, he can't fight for a long time, or he can't control too many clones at the same time, so it is necessary to let the clones find a place sit. Moran didn't know that because his avatar was unskilled, Marine suspected him, but Vice Admiral guessed his avatar was wrong. If Moran was here, he would definitely say, That's because Laozi's avatar is not proficient, otherwise relying on the avatar tightly, you can smash most of your marine powerhouses, of course not including those like Admiral. At this moment, Aokiji suddenly poured cold water on him and said, even if we know that he did it, we don't have evidence, and even if we have evidence, what can we do to him? Hearing Aokiji's words, all the Marines in the conference room fell silent. They couldn't help but think of the figure that pierced through the entire battlefield. Dragon King Moran alone, they couldn't do anything about him, not to mention that there are so many monsters on this guy's boat. Not only did they fail to kill the Whitebeard pirates this time, but one of their marine powerhouses was killed. What a loss for the lady and the army. Open black lens bracket the next morning near Sabayati Archipelago close black lens bracket. At this time, the Wanjian pirates are slowly approaching the Sabayati Archipelago. Everyone on the boat looked bored and gathered together in twos and threes to chat. Only Moran is like a grandpa. Lying on the deck chair and basking comfortably in the sun, from time to time a small hand would hand over a peeled grape and feed it into Callan's mouth. Moran squinted his eyes comfortably in the sun, and suddenly felt his body sinking. Nguyen opened his eyes and took a look, and found that the tornado was sitting on him again, and asked helplessly, Tornado, what's wrong with you again? Long Wan didn't speak and was a little depressed. The whole person lay on top of him, like a kitten, lying quietly and closing his eyes. Moran looked at the depressed tornado, and knew what was going on without even thinking about it. I guess this little girl was homesick again. The others were all careless, they were either summoned here after they died, or they had no relatives, but this little girl had a younger sister who was still in her original world. When things are settled in New World, I will take her to the original world to play for a while. As for other people, you can't favor one over another, so let's go shopping whenever you have the chance. At this time, Van Oka was on the observation deck, holding his broken gun and glanced east and west, and suddenly a red island with bubbles fell into his scope. Van Oka shouted down, Captain, I see the Sabayati Archipelago, shall we land now? Moran said without raising his head, dock the boat first, if you want to play, just go together, don't act alone. Understood the captain. Moran looked at the tornado in his arms and asked, Tornado, we will stay here for a day or two, do you want to go to the island for a stroll? He's going to wait here for Boa Hancock, the summit war is over, she probably will come here in 2 days. Long Wan raised his head and whispered, I'll go wherever you go, don't get me down, or I'll bite you. After finishing speaking, a row of clean teeth was revealed, with a fierce little expression on my face. But in Moran's eyes, it looks like a fierce woman, very cute, and it's just a mouthful when you get close to it. Chirp. Tornado was stunned for a while by Moran's sneak attack, and after he realized it, he buried himself in Moran's arms shyly, refusing to come out even if he said anything. The red pupil next to him stared straight at Moran, the meaning was obvious and he was short of writing 4 words on his face, I want it too. Asking for flowers. Chirp. Moran couldn't favor one over another, and just took a sip when he leaned in, his red pupils narrowed instantly, with a happy look on his face. Moran secretly sighed in his heart. Chatong, this little girl is really easy to satisfy. After finishing Chatong, Moran turned his head to look at Robin on the other side, and asked with a smirk, Robin, do you want to get a stamp too? Robin rolled his eyes, and said angrily, I'm not a little girl, so I won't be fooled by you, you'd better make trouble for others. Cut. Moran, who failed, glanced at Robin with disdain, and thought secretly in his heart. You, Robin, were indeed not fooled, but you were still harmed by me, didn't you? Oh. Captain, is our ship docked, or is it parked near mangrove number 20? Moran was still thinking about some unhealthy things, when Robin suddenly asked. Just stop at mangrove number 20. He will go to Shacky's place later, and he doesn't know if that old guy Rayleigh has returned. Since Summit War Ace was rescued, he hasn't seen this old guy again, so he probably sneaked away in advance. A group of pirates on the shore looked at the slowly approaching pirate ship, and one pirate said to himself, why does that pirate ship look so familiar? The pirate captain explained. It's the ship of the 5 emperors of the New World, the Dragon Emperor Moran. It's normal for you to feel familiar. Not good. Are we going to be killed? When a group of pirates heard their captain's words, their faces turned pale from fright, and they became chaotic in an instant. The pirate captain looked at the frightened crew members with a speechless face, and asked angrily, we don't mess with them, why would they kill us? Then he added, I don't think a strong player of their level would bother to look at us. We just don't mess with them. Understood the captain. Although the analysis by the pirate captain reassured them a lot, they still couldn't help trembling their feet. Chapter 198. The Unpopular Moran. After docking, Moran saw the place where they usually parked, and there was already a pirate ship parked there. Moran looked at the group of people on the shore, and said with a blank expression, you are parked at my position, can I trouble you to park the boat elsewhere? Boat. Captain, what shall we do? They're coming. A group of Marines all looked at the leader of the pirates one after another, and they couldn't say anything with fear, their feet kept shaking. The pirate captain watched by Moran was dripping with cold sweat. Although Moran didn't show his aura, just the word Dragon Emperor Moran already overwhelmed him. The pirate captain came back to his senses, remembered what Moran said, and quickly ordered, let's go to another place to stop the ship, hurry up. It's the captain. This group of pirates moved very fast, and the boat disappeared after a while, as if there was a scourge chasing them. 21 inches scared to death, I thought we were going to die. Look at how promising you are, they don't eat people, what are you afraid of? Aren't you afraid? What are you doing with your feet shaking like that? I'm cold, not afraid. Cut. After the ship was far away from number 20 mangrove tree, the people on board began to taunt each other. Looking at the messy subordinates, the pirate captain stood up and stopped him. Okay, don't make noise, let's find a place to dock. Moran looked at the pirate ship that disappeared in an instant, feeling a little puzzled. He felt that he was already very polite. Why did he scare them like this? He couldn't help doubting his handsome face, and thought to himself, do I look so scary? What Moran doesn't know is that after the Summit War, his reputation has reached the point where everyone knows it. Now if he releases the word to recruit his younger brother, it is estimated that tens of thousands of pirates will come here to attract him. Moran, who couldn't figure it out, simply put the question behind him, turned around and said, disband at the same place. What are you going to do? I'm going to rip off Bar. Do you guys want to be together? I. As long as Tornado was going alone, the others all shook their heads. They didn't want to go anywhere, and they felt boring after going so many times. If you want to play, you decide to leave one person to watch the boat, and the two who go out to play go together. Understood the captain. After giving instructions, Moran took the Tornado and walked to number 13 mangrove tree. He wanted to know the current situation of New World. I also want to ask if there is any contact information for Boa Hancock. He remembers that this Shaki has an extraordinary relationship with people from the Amazon Lily Kingdom. After a while Moran walked to the door of the rip-off bar and felt two breaths inside, not only Shaki but also Rayleigh inside. Moran thought to himself, Rayleigh, this old guy, actually came to Sabayati Archipelago before me. Did he come back by rocket? Marineford is not too close to here. They sailed overnight last night and arrived at Sabayati Archipelago today. The old guy Rayleigh is faster than him. Just ask him later. Guggy. Thinking of this, Moran directly opened the door and walked in. At this time, there were only Shaki and Rayleigh in the rip-off bar. As soon as the Tornado entered the door, it flew out of Moran's arms, rummaging through things in the refrigerator, not treating himself as an outsider at all. Shaki didn't say anything, looked at Moran who walked in, and joked with a smile. Hey, isn't this the Dragon Emperor Moran of New World? Why come to my humble house when you have time? Didn't I miss you? That's why I'm here. Moran was not polite, and joked directly at her. Shaki said unhappily. The war at Naval Headquarters has just ended, so many eyes are staring at you. You run to me, you want me to die. The war at Naval Headquarters has just ended, and these guys are running towards her. If Marine knows, he will probably live a life of being hunted by Marine again. Moran glanced at Rayleigh and said with a smirk, if you want to blame Rayleigh, I came with him anyway. Rayleigh lay directly on the side of the gun, and his face darkened immediately, but he didn't say anything. After all, he also knew how poisonous this guy's mouth is. Would he hide if he couldn't provoke me? Seeing Rayleigh ignoring him, Moran looked at Shaki and asked, do you have information about the latest situation and changes in New World? He hasn't been back to New World for so long, and he doesn't know what's going on there recently, so he wants to know what he's going to New World first. Wait, there's also Boa Hancock's contact information, give it to me too. Moran added when he saw Shaki walk into the room. Hearing this, Shaki suddenly turned around and asked, what do you want her contact information for? This is our private matter, so don't be so 8 trigrams. Shaki took a deep look at Moran, seeing that he didn't mean to explain, and he didn't ask any more, continued to walk into the room. Moran looked at Rayleigh next to him and asked, Rayleigh, how did you come to Sabayati Archipelago so quickly from Marineford? He had wanted to ask this question a long time ago, but he hadn't had the chance just now. Now that he was free, he couldn't help asking 930 curiously. Sea Kings. Rayleigh obviously didn't want to talk to him, and after saying the name of Sea Kings, he continued to drink. Moran showed an expression of sudden realization, and said to himself, so I came back by Sea Kings, why didn't I think of it? Here is the information you want, and Boa Hancock's phone bug, take it and go. Shaki took the information, and a phone bug came out, and after handing it to Moran, he immediately started chasing people away. Moran pretended to show a very sad expression and said, Shaki, I came all the way to visit you, and you actually want to drive me away, aren't you too heartless? Shaki had an expression of I believe you, he just looked at Moran without saying a word, and thought in his heart, this guy always goes to the 3 treasures hall for nothing, and every time he comes to get information, she doesn't give money. As much as you don't want to see him, you can't wait to see Moran. Moran was a bit embarrassed by the look, so he could only say to Tong Wan, since Tong Wan doesn't welcome us, let's go back. After Moran went out with the Tornado, he didn't know where he was going for a while, and it would be boring to go back now, so let's just stroll around in Sabayati Archipelago. Chapter 199. Meeting of the Whitebeard Pirates. Hey, isn't that the Dragon Emperor Moran? How did he appear here? The Naval Headquarters war just ended, isn't it normal for him to pass by here? I heard that Whitebeard and the red-haired Shanks also came to the Sabayati Archipelago, the 3 giants of the New World gathered together, I hope this will not become another battlefield. No way, whether they clash or not, let's get out of Sabayati Archipelago. That's right, let's go, let's go. Moran was walking on the street with a Tornado, and the passers-by were talking about it, and then they all ran away without a trace, and Moran couldn't even fix it. As a last resort, Moran could only use the transformation technique to transform himself into another person, and then he could go shopping normally without being pointed at by others. The tornado hung around his neck all the time, although it was a bit eye-catching, it was not recognized by anyone. Listening to the conversations of passers-by just now, Whitebeard and Shanks have already come here, and they are probably here for coating. His boat also needs to be coated. I was busy arguing with Shaki just now, but I forgot about it. He has to go to the Fishmen Island to receive the Fishmen Island. When Moran passed by the snack street, the tornado suddenly flew out of the 730, running around in front of the stalls like a kitten smelling fishy. Moran, I want to eat this, and this. All right, all you can eat. Moran thought that this little girl was in a bad mood recently, so she followed her a little bit, and she could do whatever she wanted, and Nolan silently followed behind Tornado and paid. Then there was a very strange scene in the snack street. A little Lolita was eating in front, and a handsome young guy was paying in the back. The system opens the personal page. Moran, who was idle and bored with the tornado, finally remembered that he still has a system, which is probably the system with the least sense of existence. Summoning lottery system. Host. Alphad. Moran. Identity. Captain of Wanjian Pirates. Age. 21. Abilities. Psychic ability, Thunder Fruit ability. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Rinnegan, Chakra, Wood Style. Advanced Observation Hockey. 7,508 thousandths. Advanced Armament Hockey, 7,508 thousandths. Advanced Conquerors Hockey, 7,608 thousandths. Advanced Physical Skills, 8,008 thousandths. Marine 6 Styles. Moonwalk, Shaved 7,008 thousandths. Great Swordsman, 7,508 thousandths. Strength. Admiral Advanced. Bailey, 125.730 billion. Moran looked at the tornado, who was still enjoying himself, and asked, can I designate a summoner for the system? 3 times the price can be designated for summoning, and after the summoning, the price will not stay at the same place. Now the host summoning requires 6.4 billion berries. If the designated summoning is used, the next time it is summoned, it will be 12.8 billion berries. Then I go to other worlds. Can I bring people from other worlds to the world of One Piece? It seems that although his system is a bit stupid, the functions are very perfect, and he will not take advantage of any loopholes. He also wants to use 2 billion Baileys to buy a world travel card to bring the younger sister of Tornado over here. It seems that this idea will not work. Random summoning is full of uncertainty. It seems that the only way to summon Tornado's sister is to use designated summoning method. If 6.4 billion is tripled, it is 19.2 billion, which is still within his tolerance. Anyway, he is not short of money now, and the sooner he summons, the better, otherwise he will really not be able to summon after 3 times. Moran looked at the people around him, and immediately gave up the idea of summoning immediately, and summoned after returning home at night. It just so happens that Tornado is not in a good mood recently. This little girl feels depressed when she misses home, and then I can give her a surprise. Don't be dazed, Moran, come here. Come right away. At this time, the Whitebeard pirates and its affiliated pirates were all coated in mangrove number 50 of the Sabayati archipelago. Dozens of pirate ships were waiting nearby for coating. At this time, on the Moby DK, a group of captains and the captains of the various pirate groups under the Whitebeard pirate group were sitting here for a meeting. Whitebeard scanned around and saw that everyone was here, and then said, everyone is here. Then I announce one thing. In the future, half of the territory of our Whitebeard pirates will be handed over to the Wanjian pirates. Territory, including the Fishmen Island. What? Dad, are you kidding me? That is the territory we have worked hard for decades. Why should we give it to the Wanchuang pirates? If the site is reduced, our income will also drop, and it's still half of the site, which is not a small amount. Stop making noise. Margao looked at the messy captain of the pirate group, stood up and reprimanded everyone, and immediately everyone fell silent. Margao is on the ship of the Whitebeard pirates, and he is the second person. He usually takes care of everything, so his words are also very effective. Margao looked at the people who were quiet, and then looked at Whitebeard and asked, is it because of the deal you made with the Dragon Emperor Moran? That's right, this is a deal I made with him. He helped save Ace, our Whitebeard pirates' territory, and I will give him half as a reward. Hearing Whitebeard's explanation, everyone fell silent. They also knew that Moran was at least half of the credit for their victory against Marine this time, so they didn't shout about why they gave the territory to the Wanjian pirates. Father, everyone, I'm sorry for you. After listening to Whitebeard's words, Ace hugged his head full of guilt, knelt on the deck and broke down crying. It was all because of his willfulness that it caused a series of chain reactions. Not only did some people die trying to save him, but the Whitebeard pirates also lost half of their territory. Now he's completely collapsed. Gu la 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 la. Whitebeard looked at the painful Ace, laughed and comforted him. Ace, you don't have to feel guilty, we can fight back if the territory is gone. Lousy is Whitebeard. Ace, you don't have to feel guilty, we can fight back when the land is gone, and it's only half of the land. Yes, we are the Whitebeard pirates. A group of captains and their captains also came to comfort Ace. Chapter 200. Poisoned Boa Hancock. Moran played with Tornado until the afternoon, and then slowly walked back to the number 20 mangrove tree when it was getting dark. You can't eat so many dragon rolls, so don't eat so many. It's as if I don't give you food at ordinary times. HMPH. If you want to take care of it, I will eat it. Moran looked at the tornado with a round belly hanging around his neck, not wanting to move, and shook his head helplessly. From morning to afternoon, I am not big but can eat so much, and the girls on the boat are similar. Are all the girls so good to eat? Moran took the tornado and walked to number 20 Red Tree, and the ship of the Wanjian pirates also appeared in sight. Welcome back Moran big brother. As soon as Moran approached, Blue Bonnie was happily on the boat, showing a small head to sea, 477, and welcoming Moran. Bonnie didn't you hang out? I came back earlier. By the way, have you eaten yet? If not, I'll make it for you now. Search. After jumping onto the boat, Moran looked at the tornado in his arms and said angrily, I'm about to be fed up by this little girl. Today, the dragon roll was just shopping and eating in front, and Moran paid for it at the back, but when she couldn't eat enough, Moran began to suffer, and was fed by the dragon roll, and then both of them were full. What? I was afraid that you would be hungry. Hearing this, Tornado frowned instantly, left Moran's arms, and glared at him fiercely. All right. You're doing it for my own good, and that's why you support me, okay. That's about the same. Ha 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 hiccup. The people on the boat didn't care about this, and after knowing the cause and effect, they all laughed wildly and unscrupulously. HMPH. I'm ignoring you. Being laughed at by so many people, Tornado blushed instantly, covered his face and flew into the room without looking back. After Moran waited for everyone to quiet down, he looked at Robin and asked, Robin, have everyone returned? Everyone has returned. Captain, are we going to sail now? Facing Robin's question, Moran explained, we need to go to the Fishman Island, so we need to coat the boat. Let's go to Mangrove number 50 now. There are coating craftsmen over there, so we can go directly there for coating. Understood the captain. After Robin responded, she twisted her waist and commanded the boat. She was the only one on the boat who knew how to sail. The others probably had never even seen the sea before. If they relied on them, they might drive the boat to the sky. Right, the kind where you can get an aperture on the top of your head for free. He originally wanted to find Rayleigh for coating, but after thinking about it, he decided to forget it. It is the same to find anyone for coating, so he didn't go to the rip-off bar to find Rayleigh. Near Sabayati Archipelago in the afternoon. A boat pulled by two sea kings is slowly approaching the Sabayati Archipelago. There is no man on board, and all of them are female warriors. Each female warrior carries a bow and arrow as a weapon on her back. This is the most beautiful woman in the world. One Piece Emperor Boa Hancock's ship, the Nine Snake Pirates. Holding the binoculars, Boa Marigold saw the Sabayati Archipelago in front, turned his head to look at Boa Hancock at the bow and said, Sister, I saw the Sabayati Archipelago, are we going to land? Ah, finally able to meet Moran again. Boa Hancock stood on the bow of the boat as if he hadn't heard her words, his face was flushed, his hands covered his face, and his eyes were squinted, obviously thinking about something unhealthy. Seeing this scene, Boya Sandersonia helplessly said, My sister was poisoned by the Dragon Emperor Moran, and there is no cure. Before the battle at Naval Headquarters was over yesterday, they received a message from Boa Hancock asking them to come pick her up. After receiving Boa Hancock, they rushed over to Sabayati Archipelago without stopping. During the period, they also found out that Boa Hancock was abnormal, and it was Moran yelling at every turn, so they said that Boa Hancock was poisoned by Moran. Boa Marigold came to Boa Hancock and said again, Sister, we have arrived at the Sabayati Archipelago, shall we land? It's so noisy. Boa Hancock, whose fantasy was interrupted, turned around without thinking, and yelled at Boa Marigold. Boa Hancock, who came back to his senses, immediately transformed into a queen, and asked with a queen-like air all over his body, What did you just say? Boya Marigold didn't have any dissatisfaction, she was used to it, and replied directly, Sister, we have already arrived at the Sabayati Archipelago, do you want to land? Boa Hancock didn't even think about it, and almost blurted out, Immediately, land on the Sabayati Archipelago. Yes. After hearing Boa Hancock's order, all the female warriors on board began to get busy, preparing to land on the Sabayati Archipelago. We can meet Moran soon. So happy. I don't know if he likes being a concubine. After Boa Hancock gave his orders, he turned into an idiot and smirked in an instant, his face gradually turned red as he thought about it, and he returned to the fantasy state of covering his face with his hands just now. The two younger sisters behind Boa Hancock are no strangers to seeing this scene. They have been like this along the way, and the two sisters thought to themselves, my sister is completely hopeless. Boo boo, boo boo. Sister, your phone is ringing. Bring it to my concubine. Caw sauce. Boa Hancock connected to the phone bug, and before 1.3 had time to speak, a voice came out and asked, Moshi Moxie, I'm Alfad Moran, Hancock, where are you? Is that Moran's voice? Did he call to propose to my concubine? Propose. Propose, marry. Ah, so happy. Moran didn't hear the other party's reply, and asked again, Hancock, can you hear me? Boa Hancock didn't know what he was fantasizing about, so he came back to his senses and blurted out, Moran, let's get married. After speaking, he covered his face with his hands, and his face became more and more red, like a ripe apple. Elder sister. The two younger sisters behind me couldn't stand it anymore, so they reminded me.